Okay, everybody, we're back for the TST after show. I'm going to get people in here. The link is in the video description, and I will be putting it on the Google Plus here in a few minutes. So, if you want to have a little after show for the Talking Shit Tuesday for January 10th, 2017, come on in because I know a lot of people didn't get a chance to actually finish their train of thought because everybody was jumping on Preet. Like 4 or 5 men, like they were jumping on her like she was made out of chocolate cake. All right, Reds does that better, whatever. But anyways, I'm putting the link out there. I'm going to give it about 1 minute, and then if nobody comes in, we'll see what happens there. But anyways, link is provided on my Google Plus page right now. Link. Join. Can somebody pass out the link too? I gave it to Dragnot and a few other people. In here. All right, now, actually, I posted the link in the Great Debate community. And I need to get my own dashboard running here. Obama speech in a couple of minutes. I will be back after that. Age of Atheists. Okay. Yeah, no, go watch Obama's last speech. What is his last one before his end of term? But yeah, anyways, TST got taken over by Preet, which is kind of a cool one with the fact that, it gave us something to talk about other than Ronnie and G-Man and the Clown Car Posse. But I got to tell you, this whole Pizzagate shit, that gate is closed to me. I just find nothing in it. It's been talked about. I don't see any point to continue with it. It's 2017. There's just nothing there as a story. I had somebody message me. I don't know who they are, but talking about how I don't care about the children, or I don't care that Hillary has been molesting children. And honestly, I don't believe any of that, so there's nothing to care about. I can't be emotionally invested on things that I don't think are true. And I'm not a Hillary supporter, right? I'm not a fan of Hillary. But do I think she's some kind of evil demonist that molests children? No, of course not. I mean, when you start piling in all these extraneous things that you want for a person to believe about a person, how heinous they are and how malicious they are, it just detracts from the things that we do know about a person that I find heinous or malicious. I'm not a fan of Hillary. I don't think she gives a shit about a lot of people. But does that mean since she's kind of demonic devil worshiper that sacrifices small babies at the winter solstice? No, I don't believe any of that bullshit. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting to have Preet come in and talk about Pizzagate a little bit. But I think it went on too far and too long. But anyways, let's get some people in here because I don't want to have a little monologue about Pizzagate. Because again, I'm gonna let people have their last words because a lot of them didn't get a chance to fully suss out their points when it came to what Preet was saying. I think a lot of people did have some interesting points, but I think what it boiled down to is that she wants this to be true. She needs it to be true. She wants it to be victims because I think she does have a victimization complex. I think she has a persecution complex. I don't know why. I don't know what damaged her. I don't know that much about her. But obviously there's been something in her life that makes her go way overboard when it comes to these types of things. These are her trigger mechanisms. It's not uncommon for people that have had things in their own life, and because of that, they feel like they have this need to defend like things like abortion and children who can't defend themselves. And I get that, right? We all need to defend the weak and the helpless and the people that don't have a voice. But when you start going to that extreme, nobody can take you seriously anymore. When you start comparing abortion to the Holocaust, you've lost all credibility with me. You have nothing of value to say to me anymore because you've taken something that is controversial. Don't get me wrong, abortion is controversial, but it's not to the caliber of millions and millions of 10 to 11 million Jews and gypsies being eliminated by a madman, by single persons wanting to destroy an entire race of beings, a genocide. I don't see how anybody can make this leap. So I don't deal well with nutters, and unfortunately, I have to put Preet in that category of nutter at this point. So I don't really want to engage with her too much. I think that whenever you go to these extremes, you start losing any kind of credibility you have. So anyways, does anyone want to come in? I put the link out again. Let me see where else I can put the link here. The link is in the video description. You guys asked for an after show, then I start one and nobody comes in. That's just brilliant. Actually, let me put my own Google Plus page. I put it in the Great Debate community instead, accidentally. But does anybody else think this Pizzagate is anything to it? I mean, I think it was a 4chan troll that started this. I think they said, let's see if we can create something so fucking ridiculous that the conspiratards will run with it. And I think they were very successful with it. But I think it was all contrived. I don't think there was anything to this to begin with. And I think this is how witch hunts begin. I mean, this is any different than the Salem witch hunts when people were like telling people, you know, oh, look, I saw her cast a spell. I saw her turning somebody into a frog or something. These are how these things begin. And I think what Preet's doing is a witch hunt, no question about it. She's destroying people's reputations. And again, I'm no big fan of these people, but if you're going to destroy their reputations, do it for something they've actually done. And don't mire it down with unsupported accusations, because then it makes what they have done seem, you know, kind of less important, right? Or not even verifiable. When you water it down with such crap, then you can say, hey, well, you know, they may have done this, but you know what? All this other crap's been saying about them, we've already demonstrated it's not true. So, you know, probably this isn't true as well. You kind of, well, who was it that said poison the water to muddy the well, or poison the well to muddy the water, or something like that? Whatever the hell, Ronnie tried butchering that statement, but I'm now posting it one more time in my own G+, if you want the link to come in, and I will keep it open for like 10 minutes. Oh, I can't post in my own shit. No, actually I can. But you got about 10 minutes, and then I'm ending this if nobody wants to do an after show, but they said they did. So links to join is on my public G+. My voice is kind of shot, so I don't really want to talk that much. Because I can't invite people directly into the Hangout because I'm using Shadow's corporate account. And so when you try to actually find people, it doesn't go by your circles, which makes it very, very, very difficult to add people. There's 1,000 million, you know, Fiona Robertsons, and there's only one Dragnot, though. That's pretty cool. Go figure, right? Rational Martian, I gave you time. Stephen Curtis says pizza's tied directly to the CP meme. Of course, it's 4chan. Yeah, I totally believe that. Matter of fact, you know, we all seem to be able to recognize trolls a lot. Now it is hard to differentiate between a troll and a Poe and a nutter. It really is. But given enough time, I think the vast majority of us can do it. I've reached the conclusion that, you know, MG42 Pillbox is an absolute Poe. I've reached the conclusion Rose Patton is a Poe, and I've reached the conclusion that Rand Campbell is a Poe. Could I be wrong? Sure, but chances are probably not. So I think that you just have to, like, use your own common sense here and say, look, is this sounding legit? Is this sounding like a person who really believes this bullshit? And use your own ability to critically think, because I think a lot of these people lost their ability to critically think a long time ago. There's no way anybody can watch that TST and think that Preet has all her faculties intact. There's no way. She has lost her critical thinking. When she says she is skeptical, when she's a skepticist, and she was the antithesis of being a skepticist, or when she says that she's not pro-life but advocates people should have, that she's not pro-choice but advocates people should have a choice. I'm like, that's what pro-choice means. So anyways, hey Drake,
what's going on,
everybody? It's gonna be
everybody?
the shittiest hangout of all time because
I'm here.
No, because nobody else is here.
Oh no,
friend I got left.
I remember somebody had a hangout a while back about Pizzagate, and I thought it was some kind of CCP meme that they were trying to get started. But then the news hit with the guy invading the actual restaurant with the weapon.
Yeah, well, no, I've known about the Pizzagate for a very, very long time. I mean, Mark Anoia has been talking about it. I'm surprised Gus didn't know about it and wasn't aware of it. I mean, he's so well informed across the board on most mundane things, but he wasn't aware of Pizzagate. But I mean, I hope this issue dies out because it's just so clearly this was started to be a troll. I mean, this was a 4chan troll that they just said, let's combine this and this and this and say, hey, we'll take the symbology here and we'll say it means this. And in some places it's a little bit of truth, some places it's not. Which that's the best kind of troll, right?
I was trying to get in contact with a friend of mine who works for the FBI because I'm curious if they were actually, well, I was going to ask him confidentially if he or anyone that he knows is working on this Pizzagate thing.
Because I think they've already worked on it. I think it's done.
Have they actually released a statement about it?
No, I mean everything I've read that said that basically there's nothing to warrant an actual investigation.
Okay, yeah, because that's what I wanted to see.
I mean, it's a prelim. I mean, it was always a prelim. People are like, okay, let's look into this, and somebody had to look into it, and they're like, what is there to this?
Yeah, and that's originally what I had asked Preet. It was like, is there any evidence, leading to anything other than an initial investigation or anything to substantiate this? And then she immediately launched into, oh, you must be a pedophile defender or sympathizer, one of the two. And I was like, are you fucking serious?
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, it's like, you don't. I got the same thing. I got a person messaging me during TST, don't know who the hell they are, saying, oh, well, you must accept pedophilia and you must agree with Hillary's, or like Hillary be her supporter that she's okay to go out and torture, bind, and kill babies and shit. It's like, what the fuck?
I just asked for evidence.
Yeah.
Yeah, like just imagine if you were just somebody just trying to find out what the hell's going on, which that's really what it was, like asking what the hell's going on. Where's your evidence that led you to this conclusion? And then someone jumps on you like that. It's like, how do you expect people to, let's assume this is real. How do you expect people then to jump on this bandwagon and join your crusade if that's how you respond to them?
Exactly. And again, I'm not a fan of Hillary. Okay. And if there was something that people would have evidence against her, I'm like, hey, let's look at it. Get her in prison. I'm fine with that. But you can't just fabricate shit. You can't just run with whatever comes down the pike because you think it's true, even though there's no evidence whatsoever to support it. And that's the problem she's running into. So when she's spreading this across the board, right? I mean, what she have 25, 30 posts on this. When somebody looks at that, they're going to say, you know what? I'm not looking at the content anymore. I'm looking at the nuttery here. I'm looking at how this person is basically looking like every other nutter I've ever seen with a conspiratorial cause, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so at that point you've lost your ability to try to convince anybody of anything. I'm going to start a campaign. Blue is a major shithead, and I'm just going to put this out there everywhere, and I'm going to see how people believe me. Right?
Well, I don't want to know.
And I'm just going to make up stuff. He plays the banjos. He likes fiddling with things,
fiddle file.
Fiddle file. Yes, he's a fiddler, man.
That's how it starts.
Blue. I mean, you're a fiddler. Admit it, man. We got you dead to rights, dude.
Yeah, asking for evidence makes you a sympathizer. So, what evidence did Preet come across that doesn't make her a sympathizer?
What doesn't make her a sympathizer?
Yeah, I mean, if she's accusing Dragnot of being a sympathizer for the cause, I mean,
what is Drag sympathetic towards? Forgive me for being
obviously
late,
child rapists, baby eaters, and blood sacrifice. I think. I don't know. This whole Pizzagate thing still is really disturbing. How they mixed in everything from pedophilia to sacrificial, satanic, which, by the way, nobody brought up except for Jade in the internal, and I wish you would have brought it up live. A lot of people don't remember. I do. In the 80s, when they had satanic fever, basically. Everywhere you looked, there was supposed to be some kind of satanic mass be going on. Babies were disappearing at these huge rates that never happened.
My parents wouldn't let me watch Dungeons and Dragons, the cartoon.
Yeah.
Smurfs were evil.
I was told Dungeons and Dragons would make me satanic. Mm-hmm.
But
hey,
that's all true. Also,
that's all true.
I specifically remember that panic caused by the McMartin preschool.
Oh, I remember that as well. Yeah.
And eventually it was found out that all those people were not guilty. It was all made up. But the panic that resulted from that was very real.
Oh yeah.
There's an urban legend among Jehovah's Witnesses that a Smurf came to life in the middle of a meeting and walked out of the Kingdom Hall during that whole satanic. during the whole satanic panic of the 80s, this Smurf, this kid brought in the blue, Smurf doll. And as soon as they said the prayer and they said God's name, which, they say is Jehovah, the Smurf became alive and walked out of the meeting.
That sounds legit.
I've heard
With current technology, we could do that.
Well, Justin
With
Wilson,
current technology, we could
he's a
execute and
Seventh-day
film
Adventist.
that.
He probably would believe that. I mean, do you notice that the only person on Preet's side was Justin, who was just as fundamentally flawed in his conceptual ability to think and reason? He's not a flat earther, but he's a young earther, and we've seen it how he will go through his mental jumps to try to ignore any evidence that goes against his position, and he presents evidence that's completely bullshit.
Yeah, I'm not. If they can't think, I'm about done with people who just can't think, whether it be social issues or religious. Like, I'm fucking spent. Like, I literally spent the greater part of today explaining to someone that why I'm a proponent of sex work, like prostitution.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think it should be legal like marijuana. And one of my major things is that it can be an avenue for somebody with no marketable skills to go into the world and actually do what they really want to do in life. And so I was told that I should not there's a certain word used. I'm not too familiar with very PC term, but it has something to do with socializing as far as it being socially acceptable. I should not use any language, or I should not look at it with that sort of perspective. I think it's very confusing, because it basically boiled down to I should be a proponent of sex work because people like sex. That's literally what I was told as a retort, and I did not know where to go with that other than, well, I like killing. So should I then be a proponent of assassination work? Like, it's like where does the buck stop with that?
No.
Like, I don't understand how liking something why is that the only avenue that I should look at this in, especially if I'm going to present something like this to like a senator to get passed. I don't know.
No, I agree with you. I'm spent as well. That's why, if you haven't noticed, I haven't really talked or dealt much with any of the CCP or anything. I'm spent. I'm like, there's just nothing left to even go over. I mean, it's so dry powdered milk at this point, and I'm glad we're getting into other things. I'd rather move on to other topics.
Well, what's his name? Scotsman Matt just posted another Kalam thing. So
yeah, I know. And we were supposed to talk about Matt in the TST too. I was actually looking forward to that. About this was a big thing. I'm sure you guys watched it. I feel like this is TST 2 because we missed out on so much of Talking to Tuesday because of Preet. But when Matt had been saying that souls don't wait. I want to get this straight. Did you say
souls don't have beliefs?
They know things.
Yeah, souls
but they
can't
don't
have beliefs.
What?
But he told what's her name, that godless girl. He told her that before, and then there was a recent hangout where he said he had never said that and she was lying, and then she put it together where he did say that.
So what did he actually say? Yeah. He said that souls know things, but they don't believe.
They believe things, but they don't know things.
No. It was the other way around, because knowledge is a subset of beliefs, right? Okay. So he was saying that the souls know, but they don't believe. Is that what he said? I don't want to misquote him, but I should have paid more attention.
I know which video you're referring to because I watched it a couple days ago.
But all I know is that it was funny because Godless Girl did have the link available of him saying this. I don't know how she found this, but I mean, he just basically fucked his own self, because when Matt talks about things, you guys realize he's pulling shit out of his ass like 90% of the time, right? I mean, he
normally doesn't check it. He doesn't check himself unless like Ozzy or Floyd is in the room.
Right.
If it's anyone else, he'll make shit up.
Right. Oh yeah, then he's a lot more careful actually.
Oh yeah, he'll actually change his entire tone. Like if he knows what he's saying is bullshit, he'll stop. And like I've talked to Ozzy about this, and Ozzy knows it too. And I'll throw Ozzy under the bus there. Like he will change his entire tone when he comes into the room. Well, partially because he has a man crush on Ozzy, and partially because he knows that Ozzy will call him out on his bullshit.
Oh, he's jealous as fuck as Ozzy. I'm sorry, he really is. He made me have a man crush on him. He's jealous. You know why? Because Ozzy gets respect, and Matt always likes to think of himself as the philosophical elite in the community, right? The go-to person that nobody goes to. I mean, how many people have actually said, you know what, I really don't understand this bit of philosophy. Let me go ask, rational
Matt Bell.
Has that ever happened?
No,
Yeah, I mean,
like
so it's just never happened.
Hey, Steve, I posted the link to that video in the side chat there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
oh my goodness, my game is running so much better now. Holy shit!
I mean,
You know,
I'm
it
going to
helps
watch it in a
that the
second, but yeah, it was just funny because he's just like, "Oh, I never said that. Provide me the link for that." And she's like, "Okay," and she makes a video about it.
Here you go.
That's why you got to
you
be
know it helps.
consistent. I mean,
It helps.
we all say things, a lot of things, but you try to be consistent as much as possible so you don't have that bullshit. But I mean, there might be times you don't remember saying something, in which case you're just like, yeah, you know what, I just don't recall that. But yeah, that's fine. But this was blatant, right? This is him just making shit up and getting called out on it.
There's a lot of doubling down on this Google Plus Hangouts. A lot of doubling down.
I never
Yeah,
said
like
that.
that's why I'm careful about what I say. Like if someone says, "Oh yeah, Drag, you said this and this," I'll say, "Well, you know, I don't really remember saying that exactly, but let me tell you what my position is now, like just in case."
Well,
It's
yeah,
like
but I mean, there's certain things like you'll never say, right? I mean, just
yeah. Well, of course, there's a short list of stuff that like that doesn't sound like me.
yeah. I don't know why Jake can't get him. I did not see it come up. Nothing came up for the doorbell. I can't even find your name in there.
I'm trying to broadcast you guys my screen. Can you guys see what I'm playing?
No.
Okay, I gotta find out how to get back to the overlay.
HT Wix asked what the topic was. We're kind of just going a recap of the TST and what was supposed to be on it, but we can change it to anything because I think HT Wix was making the argument to rational mind that small incremental changes can't lead to large evolutionary ones on a thread, if I remember correctly. Was that you, HT Wix, making that kind of argument? Which we have Dragnout in here now, so I mean, if you would like to continue that line, I'm sure he'd be more than happy to educate you on that.
If he wants to come in and chat, that'd probably be better because I'm playing WoW. Because or if you got to tell me what he's saying.
Where are you in
looking.
WoW? What you
I'm playing the Legion expansion, playing a Demon Hunter tank.
So you like Demon Hunter?
Demon Hunter is actually really fun. Like I thought I wasn't going to enjoy it as much as Death Knight, but imagine Death Knight but with more leeching abilities. It's really really fun.
So you can tank better with leeching?
Yeah, you pretty much a leather tank. You reliant upon parrying and dodging, and
How are they in
mainly self-healing.
PvP?
I haven't done PvP with them yet. Like I'm not sure how viable one of these guys is.
Death Knight was badass in PvP especially when they first came out.
Yeah.
Do you guys remember? Do you remember
You
all
can
the
snatch
gripping?
people.
All you would see was the people flying through the air as Death Knights were
Yeah,
gripping
you can
people
just
left and
snatch
fucking
people,
right.
dude. Like that was probably like the highlight of having a Death Knight is
That was
snatching
awesome.
people out of fucking midair.
I love that.
And you
man.
know once you got
they'd jump and
snatched,
you
you were
grip
fucked.
them. Yeah, that was the best spell ever.
I would roll with Death Knights, and I would just wait for them to grip somebody, and then I would be that asshole who put down all those like grounding totems and shit like that. So the second they landed, they were casters; they couldn't do anything. But it wouldn't matter anyway, because as soon as you get hit with Death and Decay, you weren't going anywhere.
Now, Priest had a pretty cool spell too that was very similar, called Leap of Faith. And if you could take two Priest and you get them enough range from each other, and you could literally take a flag carrier from one end of the map to the other in like 5 seconds.
Oh, fling them, yeah.
It's just
Yeah, you can just fling the shit out of them.
Yeah, that took skill to do, but when that was able to happen, that's a fucking good team.
Yeah, these demon hunters, they have a leap. It's called Infernal Strike, and you can do it twice. So you can just like rain holy hell on someone, and then transform into a demon that will help with your tanking, because you really don't have like a shield wall last stand. You have like a debuff version of that where you turn into a demon.
So they're tanking
and you
DPS
get more leeching.
thing?
Yeah, you're just tanking DPS. There's only two specs to it.
So HT Wix says yes, that's him. But hey, you want to come in, HT Wix, and join us? The link is right there in the live feed. Come on in. We can be happy to change it to.
I prefer he come in.
Yeah, because we'll always talk about science, evolution, astronomy, physics, anything like that. I mean that's much better than the drama for Google Plus.
Oh yeah.
And Blue likes to learn things. We like to educate him.
That's so true.
He does. You are like a sponge, dude, aren't you, Blue? He just wants to know all this shit.
I've been recently looking into genetics because I had to change courses. So what I've been doing is I took my the book that I used in my video to G-Man, that one, that biology 11th edition, and I've been looking into the genetic section of that and going over shit in there.
I got a few things on my bucket list to read. Hey, I've been playing a little bit more of that. I don't play a lot on it because it's just, I don't know. I play about an hour or two, and then my eyes start defocusing, and you can't shoot shit. But that game we were playing the other day, what was it?
APB.
APB, yeah. And once you get a little bit higher level and you get a little bit better weapon, it's not as bad. I hit silver.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
You're actually able to snipe.
No, I went. Well, I did get a better sniping rifle, but I got a really good assault rifle, and it's much better. I can get 9 kills a game at least. Good team.
Oh, good.
Oh, HT Wix wants to go in. All you do is you look at the video description, and there's a link in the video description. You click that. That's it.
Okay, so HD Wix is having some issues with how
Yeah, the link is right in the
organisms
video feed.
adapt.
Just look in the video description. There's a link there.
Is his question is how does adaptation lead to evolution?
No, I don't know. He talks about neo-Darwinism being outdated, and I agree with him. Rational
Yeah.
Mind, he made a good comment on it. He's like, it depends how you kind of use the term modern evolutionary synthesis, because the word modern, but we are in the modern evolutionary synthesis. But this neo-Darwinism, I don't use that term. I know some people do. I think that the classical definition of neo-Darwinism is Mendelian inheritance combined with Darwinism. But we have much more than that, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I don't
Here.
like. That's one of the first thing.
Can I ask a layman's question? Because
we're all laymen, so
maybe
yeah.
you guys can explain this to me. When I'm looking at evolution, the videos and stuff I see about it, and when I'm trying to learn about it, it seems to me that genetic drift is more important than random mutation.
Yes and
Is
no.
that
It depends
true,
on the
or-
type of mutation. Genetic drift can act upon neutral mutations, and natural selection can't, right? So natural selection can only act upon non-neutral mutations. But genetic drift is just due to random sampling. I mean, accidents, right? Things that aren't due to the effect of the gene. A natural event would be a cause of genetic drift, and that happens quite often, right? So it does have a pretty decent size effect, sure.
Certain different mutations have a different recidivism rate, essentially. Like they can come back into a population, whereas other mutations are less likely by comparison.
And what confuses me? Maybe Steve would be able to answer. I've got the gist down, but it's how exactly does a selective sweep work? Does anybody know?
Selective sweep.
Yeah, it's when you have a specific trait that gets promulgated through the population, and it takes along other traits with it, and it becomes fixed. And it's called a selective sweep. And
It sounds like you're talking about was it polyploidy? Like
no,
No.
it's an actual trait, an actual mutation that gets fixated in the population, but as it gets fixated, other things right along with it to get fixated as well.
Yeah. I've not gone far enough into genetics to study that particular
Well,
phenomenon.
the reason I ask is Fuzz mentioned it one time, and I'd heard of it, and I was like, okay, I have heard of this, and then I tried to read into it, and it just wasn't clicking for me exactly how this actually works. But again,
Like,
I'm one
I
of
would
those
need
people.
an
I have to have that
example.
light bulb ding, and until I have that light bulb ding, I don't really understand the way I should.
Yeah, I always attach the concepts to something I know. So if you were to talk about genetic drift in humans or something like that, the first thing I would think of would be like mutations of the MC1R gene that caused the production of pheomelanin and the hominids that migrated out of sub-Saharan Africa.
Right. The mitochondrial Eve thing person.
Which, by the way, was not 7,000 years ago.
Who said that?
I don't know. Some of these people are just, Eve lived 7,000 years ago. Okay, Eve and mitochondrial Eve, not the same thing, people.
Coming
Oh,
at
yeah,
you.
here.
Came out of the Middle East, Garden of Eden. Everybody knows
I
this.
think Justin actually brought that up one time, didn't he? I don't know. I mean, when you get to these
What?
young earthers, oh my god. But anyways,
gotta be-
did you get your
you
mic
gotta be
working,
kidding.
HT Wicks?
Hello.
Hello?
Here's the first. Hello.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello?
Okay.
¿Cómo estás?
So HT is supposed to hear HT. Hey, Espanol. HT isn't supposed to hear himself. I guess. Okay.
We can hear you.
Oh, okay. All right.
So what
Um.
was your question that you were trying to bring up to Rational Mind earlier today or yesterday, whatever it was?
Oh no, it wasn't a question. It was more a statement of fact.
Okay. What
That,
was the statement of fact?
that the old neo-Darwinian theory of evolution, which is just basically random mutations and natural selection, is basically dead now.
Well, that was Darwinism.
And yeah, Darwinism.
No,
Well,
neo-Darwinism is Darwinism plus Mendelian inheritance. That's neo-Darwinism. You
well,
describe Darwinism.
Mendelian inheritance will always stay around because that's just
Right, but the
Well,
phrase
basically,
neo-Darwinism means new Darwinism. It took Darwinism, and it added what's called Mendelian inheritance, or also people called it cytoplasmic inheritance. So that's why it's called
Oh, yeah, that's all.
neo-Darwinism.
Oh no, that's all fine. But what Daisy was pointing out was that it's dead. The two main points of the old theory, neo-Darwinism.
Well, I don't know
Is
anybody that
dead.
subscribes to neo-Darwinism. I've never met a neo-Darwinist, to be honest with you.
Okay, so what do they?
Drag, are you a
they no longer,
neo-Darwinist?
so they
No.
no longer believe in random mutation and
No,
natural
of course,
selection.
of course those things exist. That's not neo-Darwinism, though.
That's not
Neo-Darwinism
neo-
only allowed for, again, Mendelian inheritance and Darwinism. We have what's called the extended synthesis, too. We have to add all this stuff, and that's part of the modern evolutionary synthesis, right? You're a
There's
little bit
stuff
out of
like
date.
there's stuff like genetic bottlenecks and stuff like that we didn't have around Darwin's time that slowly got incorporated into what we now know as the modern evolutionary synthesis, and that's why you really don't hear people refer to evolution as in Darwinian terms because he didn't really understand
He didn't even know what
how
genes.
big of a role. Yeah, he didn't really understand how big of a role genetics played, and so there were certain assertions that he made that were just frankly wrong. So
Now we could probably
that's why
say
it had to be
adaptation is by natural selection. I mean, that's so when things adapt, primarily due to natural selection, obviously, right? But
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
could say that.
all these things add up. You can't just take one thing out and say, oh, well, there goes the theory, right? I mean, there's so many different processes we have to take into account: natural selection, genetic drift, gene flow, which is called migration. All these things are still around. I don't know what you're saying has been changed that much. I mean, he thought natural selection was the only thing because that's all he knew, basically. But he didn't know what was being selected. He didn't know about genes.
Yeah, instead of genes, he was what? Gemules? Is that what he was?
Something, yeah, they were like these
Proposing?
little supernatural type things, actually. I mean, they weren't really supernatural.
Okay.
But
Particles?
particles, yeah.
inheritance.
He was almost like an atomist in some regards when it comes to that.
Okay, Steve. This is actually the first time I've heard the term selective sweep, but I'm looking at it on Wikipedia right now, and I think I can explain it well enough.
Yeah, go for it.
So selective sweep is actually not the same thing as what you were thinking about. It's it's when the gene has a strong enough benefit to just basically take over in that like part of the genome in that population. So it lowers variation because it's so beneficial and so, I guess, strongly necessary to carry on through future generations that strongly selected for. That's the selective sweep. And there's different forms of selective
too,
sweeps.
but there's more to it of things being additionally added to the mutation being right along
Right.
with it. That's what I got
That thing
confused.
you're talking about, that part is actually called genetic hitchhiking.
Oh.
So this is
okay.
where neighbors to that gene. Now, I'm thinking I have a hypothesis as to why this would be something that happens, but the argument is that nearby adjacent genes end up hitchhiking along with a particular gene that is selected for. So I'm thinking, if anything, that say this selective sweep occurs in one subpopulation, right?
Made here a while back, and I
So I'm thinking
Is that Von Helton?
That was Blue. Yeah, but he was just playing a video.
So if you have a subpopulation
Sorry about
that
that.
that first encounters the new gene that is highly selected for, and that little region, that little population gets naturally selected for, but they're in a region that's adjacent to others of their species. When that same gene gets selected for throughout as they intermix with the greater population, that because it originated within that first population, there's a greater likelihood for genes which are associated from that population in that region to also be selected for in the process.
But the genetic hitchhiking is not the same as the sweep. The sweep literally just means that because it's such a beneficial mutation, it takes over
Right.
rapidly in the population.
Right.
Okay.
The hitchhiking, I'm just thinking, like, if it just happened, so like, for example, if you have an island of people that
being done.
get a super ability to let's see, to not starve for example, and then it turns out that that's super useful on the mainland. Well, when it sweeps through their population, and everybody on that island happens to have that gene, that preferable gene, but then when they start to intermix and interbreed with people from the mainland, well, it just so happens it's the offspring with that gene that tend to be more likely to thrive and move on to the next generation. So it would sweep through rapidly on the mainland, but also carrying with it, like, say, if blue eyes were adjacent to it, and
Gotcha.
from
Makes sense.
the same people of that island,
I got you.
might
That's why
also
it's genetic hitchhiking. But would Nylon A's been in a selective sweep then, something like that? I mean, when they started producing Nylon A's the first time, and that kind of took over, and now you have a species that can digest nylon. Would that have been a selective sweep, or is that just speciation?
It would have been a selective sweep if a region particularly was abundant in food that needed to have nylon digested in order to eat it.
Steve,
Yes, sir.
what about lactose tolerance?
I'd say that's what they were talking about before. I think that would have been a
Yeah.
selective sweep. That's what the selective sweep they were talking about was lactose tolerance.
Yeah, that would probably be like if there happened to perfect example, like just having somebody discover milk in a region that's normally devoid or at least limited on resources, and to begin agriculture with milk and cows in that area, you're gonna have like a family of the first farmers that not only benefit from this and grow in population size, but all of their offspring who can't digest lactose are dying off.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense because
So it would sweep right through.
lactase persistence went through the population pretty quickly when they started having yaks and goat milk and things like that.
It's lactose and tolerance is indicative of ancestry that doesn't derive ultimately from like pastoralists, and so lactose tolerance is what you would see when you look into the genetic data behind people in modern day populations. You'll see that you can trace them back to what was described by, is it Steve, or is that whoever was just talking with the greenish? You.
My name's Steve.
Okay, it's Steve then.
That's the other Steve.
You can also call me Philosophist.
But he's a philosopher dude.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, I didn't want to be rude and jump in. Can
Sorry. No,
anybody
go
hear me?
ahead. We got sidetracked, so
Yeah.
go ahead.
Oh, no,
Talking
fine.
about falafels.
Don't interrupt.
So we might have to change the subject because it seems that you guys ain't neo-Darwinists. You guys are up for the extended evolutionary synthesis.
I don't know.
Now,
anybody
this
that
is
isn't.
the extended evolutionary synthesis, not the modern.
Well, the extended is part of the modern, though.
Yes, it is.
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you guys accept that, then that's cool.
Why
So you
wouldn't
guys
we?
accept like symbiogenesis, horizontal gene
Sure.
transfer,
Yeah.
Of
epigenetics.
course, Eva
I have
Devo.
to.
Oh, okay.
Why would
Well,
we
it's cool
not?
Most
because see, there's a
biology
group.
scientists do.
Well, there's a group called the Altenberg 16, and they want to extend the evolutionary views to go beyond simple random mutation and natural selection, and that seems to be the view of Dawkins. He basically believes him and like Jerry Coyne just believe that it's basically all natural selection and random
Well,
mutation. That's why
Coyne
you guys
actually refers to
surprised me.
himself as a
No.
neo-Darwinist, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, so what I'm saying is, if you guys are up for that, then there's no point. And then there was just a meeting 2 months ago of the Royal Society.
Right.
They were discussing if they should use the new extended.
I know where you're going with this, and you're half right, half wrong. I mean, they want to change the nomenclature a little bit, and I don't see a point to. All this has already been incorporated. I don't think we need to change anything. I've talked to Fiona about this, who is a biologist, a PhD in biology. She doesn't think there's a need for anything. If I'm not mistaken, Sam, we talked about with Sam before.
What's this Altenberg 16? That sounds like a conspiracy thing.
I would be pretty sure that if there's any indication that Dawkins is limited in what he is up to date on in regards to genetics and natural selection and evolution, it's
When was
probably
Dawkins
because
relevant?
he is trying to explain the most base understanding more often than not, because most people don't even understand that.
Yeah, I mean, how many times has Sam said when people talk about epigenetics, they generally 99% of the time have probably no idea what epigenetics even means.
Like Steve hit it right on the mark. It's clear that this is almost kind of like it's borderline PR. It's clear that these terms, not only are there a lot of different terms for saying the same thing, but they're thrown around with certain implications, like neo-Darwinian evolution, or just like being a Darwinist, that kind of stuff. It would be nice just to say, look, this is what it is. This might refer to a philosophical stance on the issue. This doesn't. That kind of thing.
Okay, because like one of the main things that Dawkins proposed in one of his books, or maybe he's gone away from this, like a basic
He's
overview.
not.
The selfish
He
gene-
hasn't
how do
really
you-
been.
hold
He
on,
hasn't
Joe.
really been like contributing to like up to date current science since like what?
One
Not for the
moment,
past 30 years.
I
Yeah.
just want to ask HT here. How do you spell Altenberg?
Alten, just put ALT and Berg, and just put Altenberg 16, new evolutionary synthesis, and it should come up. And then also put Royal Society. This will be another meeting. The Altenberg.
Oh no, I went right to Google. Thanks.
Yeah, the Altenberg 16
I went
is
right
a couple
to
years.
Wikipedia.
It is a couple years ago. Google also Royal Society meeting on the extended evolutionary synthesis. But getting back to Dawkins, he proposed the selfish gene, and what the HT is saying is that nowadays,
Okay.
Yeah, most
People are
people think
always
that was probably adequated, the selfish gene.
okay, well, since you all agree with that, do you think can HT bring up another topic that he's interested in?
Yeah, but if you
HT,
just refer to yourself as a
Steve?
third person, it's kind
May
of
I-
creepy.
Steve,
What?
HT, books like The Selfish Gene are coffee table books.
Right, and I agree.
That's
with you.
all
It's
they
not
are.
some scholarly
They're
work.
books for pseudo intellectuals to read while sitting at a coffee shop with their laptop to pretend to be intelligent, and they know what they're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, it was,
Bullshit, there
all
goes
he
my
was
weekend.
arguing was the selfish gene.
I know,
was
Drake. There goes your
group over
education.
individual.
Oh, that's good. You guys agree with that because, like the HT was saying, that the
Well,
selfish
why don't we
gene
just go read The Naked Ape?
is giving way to cooperation. Now it seems that systems cooperate,
Well,
and it's not survival of the fittest anymore.
Well, cooperation
It
has nothing to do
seems
with
that-
natural selection. You had brought that up in the thread. I mean, cooperation is included in the evolution, right? I mean, you can have a cooperative type society and a population that's cooperative. That has nothing to do with natural selection. Natural selection and survival of the fittest only has to do with the fitness on the genomic level, not which is like the biggest, fastest, strongest. It's which one has the best genes that is best suited for the environment that they're in. That's what that means.
Yeah.
No, but if a multicellular organism performs better than a single cell organism, don't you think it would be selected for?
Depends on the environment. I mean, we
But-
have
but-
bacteria
but-
that's single cell, and that
Yeah,
bacteria
but I'm
is one of
saying-
the most ubiquitous, most successful, creatures on the
Stephen,
planet.
it might be informative to talk about like different niches that, or what everyone else calls a niche. I like calling them niches. It might be important to point out what those are, because you can have single-celled and multi-celled bacteria just hanging out right next to each other because they're competing for different resources. That's another thing. So I mean, usually when you're talking about the competition, usually isn't it, you're usually talking about within whatever group of organism you're looking at. I mean, there's competition amongst other species, other like organisms even, but a lot of times that has to be with respect to how each of those different species try to access the resources that they need in order to eventually be reproductively successful. Does that make sense, HT?
Well, let's get back real quick to the person who said cooperation can't be selected for.
Well, that's
Like,
not what I said.
Oh, okay, then then I agree. Then if cooperation could be selected for, then we agree, because they actually heard that it could.
Well, I don't know what I mean by selected for. You select for traits, right? Phenotypical traits. Cooperation is not a. I mean, I don't know. Is there a genomic component to cooperation? I have no idea.
I was just about to ask, like, when you mean cooperation is selected for in a population, what exactly are you referring to? Like, are you certain organisms or certain sets of genes that would increase the likelihood of cooperation?
Yeah,
Well,
if you
like,
mean the
let's take-
genes, then
let's
yeah,
take-
sure.
Well, let's take symbiogenesis, which Lynn Margolis proposed, which brought in the mitochondria
Right.
into a cell.
Mhm.
Now, let's say cells that didn't have mitochondria before, wouldn't they be better selected than those that didn't? Pre-mitochondrial cells.
It depends.
whatever.
I mean, the eukaryote cells that now had this, it's this mitochondrial organism living in it, had
Well,
a
that's all
symbiotic
cells,
relationship,
right?
right? But not all
Not,
of them
not all
did.
not all cells have that type of symbiotism. Like you have some that simply produce their energy through fermentation, and they don't need a symbiote in order to gain ATP from. So, and like
Very
I said, it
simple,
really
simple
depends.
alcohol process, right?
Yeah, there are certain cells that will obtain energy through chemical interaction. They're
I've seen now.
So I mean, it really depends on the organism. It's hard to say that which one is superior when we see organisms that are vastly different than the ones that they inhabit. Yet they can wreak havoc upon that organism just through like parasitism.
HT, remember when I mentioned that there's different niches, right? Some like of these cells entered into certain niches where it was more advantageous to survival and to reproductive success in order to, I guess, incorporate the mitochondria into its body, whereas others just continued on, like Dragnot just described different ways you can have cells without the mitochondria, right, Dragnot?
Yeah, like chemioautotrophs.
Yeah, you gotta. Chemioautotrophs. They're in places where they don't have access to other forms of energy, like other things that would allow them to generate like energy of some kind, right? And that's because of their environmental context.
No,
right?
Yeah, it depends
the
on.
HT agrees, but now it seems.
You breaking up for you guys?
Hello.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's breaking up for me.
You kind of lost me. We
And what
started.
about photosynthesis?
Picture of you could finish.
I mean,
Sorry.
photosynthesis is a pretty prevalent way for ATP production, right?
Yeah, I mean the plants use a similar endosymbiote the chlorophyll is actually another.
Can anybody hear me?
Yes.
Yes, we can hear you now.
Well,
You were breaking up earlier.
the chlorophyll is a chemical. It's a chloroblast, isn't it? Isn't that the?
Not the chloroplast.
Yeah.
Yeah, the chloroplast. That's
Yeah,
what I
they're
meant to say.
the. It's a very similar type of enzyme. Yeah, I remember that too. In the symbiotic relationship.
Hey, I thought of an alternative explanation to the hitchhiking thing. I'm willing to bet it has a bit to do with overlapping genes. It's like
Which one?
genes overlap
Mhm.
at times. Like so, it would make sense to me that for hitchhiking to occur, it's also
there's
known
some
as
encroachment on the
genetic
other gene.
draft. Is like if the gene is only fully there and fully expressed, if it has the full component of not just its own allele, but or the majority of its own allele, but also combined with the allele of the other adjacent gene that's like right next to it on the chromosome.
So if it takes one, it takes the other.
Yeah, pretty much. If it's selecting for one, it ends up selecting the other, but at a different frequency spectrum. They're also mentioning here, so I probably don't have it all figured out yet.
Yeah, it was a little confusing to me too. That's why I'm not ashamed when the light bulb doesn't go on, right? I'm like,
Yeah.
it's just not there. So I like things to click, and when things do click, I'm like, yes, Joe was right. Oh wait, I've never.
I'm
said
always right. Steve, are you talking about the difference between selection for and selection of?
No, I'm talking about it when you actually have a selective sweep of a beneficial mutation, how it has the genetic hijacking that goes along with it to causes a fixation in the population.
Well,
It's also known as genetic draft. When genetic hitchhiking is also explained as like genetic draft, where a gene is drafted for because it is adjacent, like directly adjacent to a beneficial gene that's being selected for.
It does kind of seem like this could be explained by, you have selection for. That's what's that's what natural selection is selecting in order to in order to make a reproductive success occur, in order to have reproductive success.
Right, but how do the other genes get
as a
tagged along with it?
consequence, that's where I was getting.
okay.
As a consequence, you have selection of these other genes, the drafting. It sounds like
Who's
you
got the
get it now,
vibrator
Steve.
on?
I'm still a little fuzzy, and so is Steve.
Oh, sorry, that's the dryer.
No. Is that
The,
Joe? Would you say it's kind of maybe similar?
mechanism
Right,
for
it's the dryer.
like why would
We'll go
it
with
select for a gene based on its locus like how close the locus is to the gene that is being selected for, like as opposed to say selecting for other genes that might be on different chromosomes.
Well, you're saying that it's selecting for one gene, and you're asking why would the ride-alongs go along with it instead of
Why would the locus
some
of
other
other nearby genes actually be affected by that selection?
I think that it's just as a part of the interaction with that gene with those other parts, with those other loci, right? Like,
but in that case, wouldn't it actually be if they're interacting with it, then all of those genes are being selected for in conjunction with each other, as opposed to some of them being really drafted?
one of the things I'm thinking of is you just kind of have. I think it's similar to the concept of mosaic evolution. If you guys can correct me if I'm off base here, but the thing with human evolution is later on in genus Homo, our brains became huge, and as a consequence, we gained these huge basketball heads. But because of that, other things changed. Our face flattened, or we developed a chin. We actually got a forehead. That kind of stuff. Like the selection was for the brain, right? But as a consequence of the brain getting bigger, other morphological features of the skull changed.
Yeah, I thought that was
right.
due
So,
to,
but locus.
Well, there was a
hang on.
Locus wouldn't
I
quite.
thought that was due to energy things, because when the brain became
There's a lot of different.
It was doing a lot more wattage, right? So it required a lot more power, so a lot more glucose and other things that it had to take away from other things like muscle mass. and it changes
Right,
the
and-
edit features. I thought that was just to an allocation of energy.
Well, maybe I'm off. It sounds like Steve's going to say I'm off base, but
Oh, I
I
have no
definitely
idea.
will
No,
talk.
these are the things we
Yeah,
like
No,
to
the
hang
other
out with these
Steve.
hangouts,
Every
'cause I have
time I
no
say
fucking
Steve,
idea.
the one that I don't want to address me addresses. Go ahead.
There was actually
You're
a
welcome.
study done where brain development and brain growth was due. They showed a link between jaw size and bite strength. How some apes before had
Yeah,
tremendously
jaw
high
pressure,
bite
right.
strength,
Yeah.
and because of the thinning of those muscles, that's what allowed brain growth and skull capacity.
Yeah, we had
Right,
lost
so-
quite a bit of muscle mass, and like you said, the bite pressure. I had actually read that same thing you did. Interesting.
Yeah, it was actually pretty common during those days to bite off the penis of competing males. So I think that was a
Glad
loss
that
we
didn't get
we
selected
males
for
suffered.
in humans.
During
Yeah, so-
those days.
That would suck.
The trouble with that explanation is like you imagine the gene for increased glucose usage in conjunction with the gene for brain mass increase, right? The brain mass has to make maybe like a little more increase, and then there follows a selection for the gene for glucose. The trouble is that those two things are so far apart, different, that they won't necessarily be adjacent to each other on the same chromosome, right, or in the same
And
gene
that's what I'm having
neighborhood.
difficulty is how do they have? I understand if it's like the if the lotus point is like near the gene, right, of the allele, but how do you take along riders with completely different chromosomes? Maybe that's where I'm having some kind of conceptual error.
No, I think that's the thing though, is the definition that I'm reading on Wikipedia is that the hitchhiking effect only applies to local like nearby genes
Okay.
that are next to the locus of the
That's where I was
allele in
getting
question.
confused. I was like, I don't see how this is having to do with any other fucking chromosome.
Well, what chromosome are we focusing on with this?
Well,
Because
any of
if
them.
they're like
Anyone with a beneficial
sex-linked,
mutation.
Yeah, my
Well,
argument with the chromosome is that if we're talking about two genes which could be on different chromosomes, then we're not talking about this hitchhiking effect.
yeah, it can't be.
It's just on the
So
same
If we're talking about
chromosome.
two genes that are far apart from each other in the whole makeup of your DNA, then it's not the same as what this hitchhiking effect seems to be describing.
Oh, excuse me.
We need a biologist. I guess like none of us here is really.
Well, that's what half the
I'm
fun
only
as
learning
lay people is
biology.
kind of trying to figure this stuff out on our own, where we don't have to like get an expert every time. And then they can either say, "Hey, yeah, you guys did pretty well
We
figuring
can
that out
call
on your own,"
Ronnie.
or "God, you guys are fucking idiots and you're way off base." I don't
He's
mind
not an
either way. I
expert.
learn, right?
And he's not a
Yeah, that's
scientist.
true.
I have no pride, so it really doesn't matter.
It's funny because one thing I think it's HP or HT. One thing it sounded like he was saying is that evolution had like this ladder, that there's like this pinnacle of evolving, and that how do we get to that point? Was that his argument that evolution has this, that some species
I
are
don't know.
more evolved than others, or is it something more complex? Because I'm really not understanding where
Just
he's
ask
coming
him.
from.
Hey, by the way, Benjamin and
Was he
Lightspeed,
stable?
they're supposed to say it wasn't twins. Like, I can't type when I have so many things running sometimes. My keyboard goes to shit. It slows down to the point where I'm like literally type a letter, wait 5 minutes. But so yeah, the human chromosome 2 fusion we can talk about in a little while, but it wasn't some kind of twins that caused it. It was probably ancestral, but not. I wouldn't say it's twins. But there were a lot of inbreeding going on that caused it to get down to 46 chromosomes. HT Wix. So what?
Hell
I mean,
yeah.
so where were you going with this? Out of curiosity, Wix. Is he back?
He might be lagging again. Or did he go to his dryer? Is that what it was? I don't know.
Just keep on insisting it's a dryer.
Yeah, we've had a lot of
I don't know.
hangouts
I
on
was
human chromosome 2.
Did you say it was
just kind
ancestral
of
or
curious.
ancestral?
You might be having technical difficulties.
He said ancestral.
Still didn't get that. Ancestral?
Well, I mean, obviously
Sister fucking.
there had to be two people with an abnormal chromosome count that had a mate to eventually get the 46 diploid number, right? It didn't happen in a single generation. That's why the 44 chromosomal man, he would have to mate with another 44 chromosomal female in order for that to have a fixated 44 chromosomal kids.
Am I lagging?
No.
Okay. That's weird. I don't know.
I wonder when I'm gonna invite PVZ back. That was fun, actually. I think he kind of enjoyed it. He's a biologist.
What's up, Steve? What's up, panel?
Hey, what's up, Liv? How are you? Welcome back.
Oh, guys. New Year treating everybody okay?
Yeah, we're trying to. I mean, better than how you get treated over in the Clown Posse rooms. They're not too friendly to you anymore. I saw you in there. It's been a while, but you I don't know. They seem to be like just.
I don't know which one you're talking about. Like I've been jumping through panels.
Oh God, this was either
First
in
week.
Ronnie's or G-Man's. Like I don't remember. I think it was G-Man's, but I could be mistaken.
I was on with someone I think a day or two ago, and it was Molly was there. I think that's the one you're talking about.
It could be. It could be. They all blend together.
And there was some guy. Right? No, they seemed like great people. They were cool. They were reasonable. It's just that in the beginning, what happened is I got real dismissive because there was a character who chimed in and he asked a question. You know, he asked one of those quasi-rhetorical questions. He didn't really have a question. He really wanted to convey his, sentiment for, people who had my views. So I realized he really didn't have anything to say. He didn't really want to discuss anything. He just wanted to be a prick. So.
We know a few like that.
Yeah, when I get to them types, like especially with this online shit, like you know me, Steve. Like I'm not I'll just stop talking.
Yeah, no, you say your case, and then you just kind of
run your mouth.
You're not an internet bully. You have your opinions, and you have like to discuss them, and you do so effectively, and that's all you can really ask.
I got gray hairs in my head, Steve.
Oh well, stay in this community a little longer, and they'll all be like, we've seen mine. As Dragon and I were talking about earlier, we were kind of over the
kid shit.
Yeah, I mean, it's just enough's enough. I've lost interest in the bullshit.
I've never had any. I know exactly what it is, and my I guess worldview on this issue is a little different. I realize that the vast majority of the people that give you shit, and all of you guys, and they're in the chat room, saying all types of silliness, these are chumps. I don't mean to be crude, or I know you guys are real intelligent and everything, but the nomenclature is called chump.
Yeah,
these are the same chumps in high school.
It's a very apropos word for that. I have to agree with you. That's a very fine choice of word to actually describe them. It's very descriptive.
And I don't mean head busters or something like this. I just mean these are the type of guys and girls who, in high school, they were like this, but they couldn't really say anything because they get smacked in the mouth. So now with the internet age, everybody's online, and they're like Marvel heroes.
They just have nothing to back it. That's the funniest part. I mean, I just never seen a group of people so goddamn headstrong and so willing to make themselves look to be completely idiotic and inept. I don't understand. I'm not used to that. I'm not used to a group being that fundamentally flawed, and it being proud of it. I mean, they're arrogantly proud of it. Yes. They're fucking stupid.
I started calling it.
Here's the thing. I might have mentioned this before to you, Steve, but back in one of my psychology courses long ago, there was a study that was brought up which had found an association between the natural function of the brain that heroin mimics and this function being released, this neurotransmitter in the brain being released when people are in agreement over something. I think there is something to be said about that, where I haven't really dug more into it, so I'm not making a strong scientific claim here, but I wonder if there is something to the very nature of just agreeability. You pick your tribe, and this tribe agrees with me. That'll give me some kind of sense of belonging and appeal. And even if I'm just in a room full of fools who probably belong in an insane asylum, as long as we're all pretending to agree, it feels really good and gives us some sense of self-worth where
I
we otherwise
completely
have
see
none.
that. Sure. Oh yeah, and I think it's because it gives them validation too, right? I mean, when one of them is like, "Oh, let me give you this stupid shit that I've learned," and everybody else goes, "Yeah, that's right. We yeah, that's awesome." It gives them a sense of validity, even though if they've asked an expert, the expert look at them and say, "No, you're utterly hosed on this. You're wrong." They want validity.
I don't
They
think
don't
they
want
understand
credit.
each other even.
No, Steve.
Yes,
Steve.
they don't understand each other.
May I multiple? Steve, it's every village has its idiot.
Yeah, but that's the whole village of
But
idiots.
since the internet has come along, it's allowed the village idiot to get online and find a subreddit where they talk to other village idiots.
Yeah, it's a village of idiots.
So they have a place they can conjugate now, and they share their idiocy. And that's why you're not used to seeing groups like this, because you're only used to dealing with one or two at a time. Now you have the entire world's population of village idiots talking to each other.
We do listen to a hangout of 10 motherfucking people talk. Just see, we'll admit when we don't know something. We want to learn, right? I mean, we're happy to do that. That's why I like to have these hangouts. We can learn things. And I learn something new every time. They don't learn a damn thing over there. They'd never get any better.
They're incapable.
No,
If they were capable of learning, they would have learned something by now.
I have to suggest that
even
this
just a
isn't
little bit of it, they would have figured something out that they were wrong.
What's
but
that?
they just don't care to learn.
I have to suggest that this isn't unique to the advent of the internet, because I mean, look at Utah. I mean, pretty much.
That's me.
Pretty
In
much
real terms,
like
guys,
Mormonism as a whole, and other cults of the same fashion.
Well, I
It may not be-
wouldn't call Mormonism a cult, but that's okay. That's just me.
It may
hell,
not be.
Look at the National Enquirer and stuff like that. That was about the only way people could, communicate with each other about the stuff. Weird, woo, whatever.
Exactly. There you go. So when we were all kids, every time your mom went to the checkout at the cash register at the supermarket, you seen the National Enquirer stuff. That means this type of mentality's always been there. But there is something distinct that I've tried to
but
ask questions
there's
about.
people who would still look at the National Enquirer and they would find it as just either they find it true, they find it amazing, they find it to be just pure entertainment, something to laugh at, and people who just look at it and just ignore it because it's a bunch of crap.
Listen, Trump quoted the National Enquirer when he said Ted Cruz's father was involved in the JFK assassination. So
okay,
Well,
Trump can't handle a Twitter account, nor can Dawkins.
Yeah, even
can we move on?
Gets some things right occasionally, though. But anyways, I want to get back to HT. Are you still there? Is your mic working, HT?
Yeah, sorry about that. I dropped a couple of times, and I had a hard time finding my way back in
Google
here.
hates us all. It's just the way of the beast. So I want to know though where you ending up with this. I mean, we all seem to be in agreement. There's a lot of biology, a lot of cool shit going on. I mean, we're on the cutting edge of epigenetics and all this other stuff, and that's good. I mean, what downfall do you see from any of this? Do you see any negative repercussions? Because I don't see anything negative.
No. What I was bringing up is that it seems like you guys are the new generation, so everything's cool. It seems like the older generation, like Jerry Coyne, Richard Dawkins, are still stuck in the old neo-Darwinian viewpoint. But you guys accept everything. You guys accept symbiogenesis, horizontal gene transfer.
I think they do too.
Epigenetics.
Why wouldn't they?
Everything. So I mean, okay, what's that?
Why wouldn't they accept
that's
that?
the
You keep saying that they don't
That's-
accept that. Horizontal gene transfer has been around a very, very long time. We've known about lateral gene transfer and epigenetics, even though it's rather new. I mean, I think that any biologist would understand that we do know for a fact that things do become methylated. You do have gene expression due to things like histone acetylation and deacetylation. We know these things exist. We know that simple things can have that methyl tag and that can be transmitted through inheritance to a generation and not change the actual sequence itself, right? It's a tag. It's a tag. That's all it is. It doesn't change the actual nucleotide sequence. So we know this stuff exists. What's that, Steve?
Also, make no mistake. Just because these new advents and these new discoveries are Lamarckian-ish, it's still not the same as Lamarckian evolution. Lamarckian evolution is still debunked. So if you maybe are finding yourself seeing Dawkins or any of these other major players disagreeing with Lamarckian evolution, that is not the same thing as these new epigenetic kinds
That
of
might be true.
concepts.
Right. Of course. Yeah, I mean, because Tommy Hall is like that, right? I mean, he is one of these Lamarckian guys. He doesn't understand that there's a difference between Lamarckian and neo-Lamarckian. I'm fine with neo-Lamarckianism. I think that this stuff can be considered to be neo-Lamarckianism, but that doesn't mean anything. That's just, cool shit, but it doesn't change anything fundamentally.
Yeah, it's like you were talking. Some people cannot accept that the epigenetics is just a temporary thing. Just changes the expression of the genes. That's all. And then it goes several generations down or whatever, comes back from where it was. They want to take that and run with it.
HT, does that make sense?
Oh no, everything. See, you guys even brought up Lamarckianism, and the HT was going to bring that up. That there was a lot of resistance. What the HT will do, and we could change the subject, is point you guys to the Royal Society meeting.
We know about the meeting. At least I do.
Well, that's what I'm saying. So
I don't find any interest in it, though. I mean, I don't believe we need to revamp the whole system or change anything. These are political changes. These are not biological changes. You realize this, right?
Oh, okay. So then you agree with me that well, no, I don't agree with you. It just seems that you think, well, you accept all the new changes that the extended evolution.
These have been around for a while. I don't know why you. I mean, Fiona got her PhD in the 70s and she accepts this stuff. Or in the 80s.
Are you saying that?
Oh, no, she's not that old. Sorry, Fiona. She's like 70s, bitch. Fuck you. No, she's like.
But are you saying that Richard Dawkins doesn't agree with these things, or are you saying that they somehow deny the new science? I'm trying to understand what your critique is.
Why would they deny things like epigenetics and Evo and?
Well, I don't know. That's why I'm saying why did the Altenburg 16 had to form? Those scientists had to form to try to push these new ideas. Why did the Royal Society had to?
Why do you have to push an idea if we're talking about science? It should be self-evident.
These are not novel ideas. I mean, this has been around for a while, my friend.
No, the HT completely agrees. See, that's what I'm saying. So the HT finds this refreshing. It seems like all the young guys accept all the new.
Well,
they're not new ideas.
I'm 46.
No.
I think at this point we need a source.
Would accept this stuff too. I don't know what you're saying they don't accept.
Yeah, do you have a source for Dawkins or Coyne disagreeing with these concepts? Because I think we need that at this point.
Now, how
I never understand. I don't understand why there's a need to sway opinion if we're talking about science.
Well,
not you guys, but I mean these theories that come out. Well,
it depends. I mean, when Lynn Margolis was putting forth her, ideas, she had to sway it. When what's her name, Barbara McClintock was putting across her ideas for jumping genes, she had to fight for that. So I mean, you do have to fight for these things in the arena of science. I have no problem with that. But when it comes to things
that's highly suspect.
Well, it's not to the public though. You're not fighting in the public arena. You're fighting in the academic arena, right? Who gives a shit?
That's peer review. To me, that's even worse because it's an exclusive community. That means you have an exclusive hall or room of people who essentially cast votes or whatever. And then suddenly,
not cast votes.
Well, it's just accept.
Look, when I say cast votes, I'm not. Don't hold me to it. I'm no scientist. What I mean is, the decision is made amongst an exclusive group.
It takes
academic
a long time
or
to have a
whatever.
consensus, though. It doesn't happen overnight. I mean,
and then the whole other couple of billion of us got to accept it, hook, line, and sinker, or you're a moron.
No, that's not true.
That's the process of peer review. I think you're unnecessarily the process of peer review.
I understand what peer review is, but that's what I'm saying.
That's how science becomes. That's how you have a consensus.
They can go learn it, right?
That's how all academia. If you want to get a PhD, everything goes through peer review. All academia moves that way. What I'm saying is, if you have a scientific discovery of some type, or you come to a solution like mathematicians when they develop some weird math or something, it's pretty self-evident. There ain't a whole lot of need.
Well, that's not
it's
true.
Like they say,
there's
no
math out there, but you know that constructivism, there's some types of math that only like 6 people in the world understand.
Of course.
So I mean, if you want to do a proof in that type of math,
physics,
right? I mean,
like you used to work on boomers, right?
But when they I think it was the Poincare conjecture. It used what's called Ricci flow, and this type of mathematics that he used. I can't remember the Italian guy's name that got the field. Well, he got a Fields Award for it, I believe. Or it was one of the Millennium Prizes. That's what it was. The mathematics he used for it, literally half a dozen people would understand. I mean, so you or me or anybody else would not be able to look at this and go, okay, this is valid or not. We would have no idea.
Well, I could barely
right?
get through algebra.
What?
Well, I could
more than
barely
algebra.
get through algebra.
Yeah. But here's the same
Look-
thing.
look at it this way.
When scientists come to consensus, especially when it's trivial stuff. Okay, for example, and I'll ask this to Lived and HT. Would you guys say it's a scientific consensus that gravity exists and that the theory of relativity at least models general theory of relativity, models gravitational forms? I mean,
Yeah.
okay, so that's a scientific consensus, right? Because that model seems to work. We have no violation of it. We have no instance where that model fails, except for it's in the middle of a black hole, obviously. But
there are scientists who disagree with that and who are now trying to advocate for different
there
views.
There are a few, but that's not. But
I'd like to actually see a black hole.
well,
I
we
really
see
would.
we see the effects of a black hole, but there are scientists
we
that
think
want
of it.
to add upon that, right? They want to go, okay, maybe there might be instances where it doesn't work, right, inside the black hole or at the beginning of the Big Bang. That's true because quantum gravity and relativity don't play well with each other. So that's a fact, but that's only for specific instances. Generally speaking,
Right.
if I want to drop something and model it using general relativity, nobody's trying to dispute that. Nobody's going to say general relativity will never work for that, right? No scientist is trying to dispute that. See what I'm saying?
Actually, we can still use Newton's laws.
You could use Newton's law, right?
equations.
You could,
Yeah,
yeah,
we
you
can still
could.
use Newton's stuff.
But the only difference,
Yeah,
the main difference between Newtonian and non-Newtonian is that in Newtonian, gravity is treated as an actual force, right? And in
that's true.
relativity, it's not. In general relativity, it's not a real force. It's a fictitious force, and it's not an inertial frame of reference.
Let's put it this way: these decisions are made from a large number of people who prove themselves in academics first and foremost, and there's more of them that are reviewing each of these materials than there are members of Congress, and none of their decisions are so finalized and set in stone that new information can't change it.
Right. Given enough evidence, you can overthrow any theory.
And you're encouraged to.
There you go,
Like,
Heavy.
if you have it.
Yeah. I've been trying to butt in. I'm going to butt in rudely.
Go ahead.
I think I'm lagging.
Just
guys.
don't show us a black hole, please.
Yeah,
Or
but
brown hole.
that part about there's this exclusive group of scientists or whatever, or people that choose the science that we're supposed to accept. No. The bottom line is, if you have a theory or idea or whatever you're bringing for peer review, evidence, your evidence, it either stands or it falls. There's no exclusive group going, well, we're not the Illuminati. There's no Illuminati of scientists or group saying, we're going to have people believe this and not this over here. No, science doesn't work that way. Bottom line is the evidence.
I don't believe science works that way. I agree with him 1,000%. I don't believe science works that way. However, the dynamics of their groups do work that way.
Well, here's a perfect
that
example.
almost sounds conspiratorial. No, it's science progresses, by evidence. If the evidence stands, it stands. If it falls, it falls. This is that simple. You have to you bring something up, and you have your evidence and your test results and everything, and that people have to be able to do the same test and get the same results you do.
Right.
Yeah, let me give
That's
two
right.
examples of that, Lived, because one got brought up in the last video, and I can't respond to because my keyboard's fucked. By the way, because Benjamin King says cold fusion is a good example of overthrown theory. No, it wasn't, because it was never a theory. Cold fusion was a conjecture, but it got overthrown, yes, because they didn't have the evidence to support it. Okay, so it's a perfect example of a conjecture that people were trying to promote this cold fusion, but physics didn't allow for it. I'm adamantly against cold fusion. I don't think it exists, period. And the other thing was, do you remember like when they did the experiment and they found that the neutrinos seemed to violate the speed of light by 60 nanoseconds? People were up there going, oh my God, the special theory of relativity has been broken. That something went faster than the speed of light. Come to find out, it was just a loose connection, right? So these things are thoroughly vetted and looked into, right? But people are like, okay, let's look into this. Is there a violation? Can we overthrow the theory? It wasn't, right? So when you got an idea, it is vetted.
I hear you, but I don't want to get in the weeds here. I mean, I'm just saying, this is why I listen
the
to you
weeds
guys.
right now, anyways. I mean, we're looking up to see the sky, man. HT, I mean, we kind of got away from you. I'm sorry. I kind of wanted
I
to
listen
finish
to you
back up
guys
with you
'cause
and,
I learned.
wanted to know why you still think these guys don't accept modern biology, which has been several decades ago. But
Well, first, the HT wants to agree with Liv and Steve. Heavy in the HT's opinion is wrong that science is getting these little groups, and if an idea isn't welcomed by these little groups, they have so much power they
You
can
get
just
kicked
shoot it.
out.
that's absurd.
They treat it like the internet.
That's
And
absurd.
Steve,
That's
no,
completely
Steve brought up
absurd.
two perfect examples. Steve, he surprised me when he brought up these two names, Lynn Margolis and Barbara McClintock.
Yeah,
Lynn
and
Margolis and Barbara McClintock.
and they got their
They were
ideas
both-
across.
Yeah, but how long did it take them?
One of them was like 30 years or something. But they needed to have enough evidence. But again, sometimes the process takes a long time because there has to be a consensus of overwhelming. I mean, we still have people that called bandits. They don't accept birds came from dinosaurs. There's like one or two left, right? There's not very many. There's like who was it?
We got people running around talking about the Earth is flat.
Yeah, well, not too many people do that anymore. But I mean, we have
Yeah,
a
well,
consensus
maybe
that
they
birds are
can talk about
dinosaurs. Except for what Fiducia was it Fiducia? Yeah, Fiducia is like the only holdout, isn't that Fiducia? Yes, Fiducia, Alan Fiducia. But the rest of science, pretty much, yeah, that's a scientific consensus. But that took several decades to get to. Things don't happen overnight, man.
Yes,
Well,
but
here,
their visual
you know,
acuity is
leads
not
me to-
based on movement. That would be a cat.
What?
I
What
said,
leads me to
yes, but their visual acuity isn't based on movement. That would be a cat.
I don't know what you're referring to.
Jurassic Park reference? Nobody?
Oh, okay.
Well, what leads me to think that way is, I'm not starting from a position of saying I'm right and everyone's wrong. I listen to you guys to learn. These are things that I don't deal with. But what leads me to think that, or what leads me to identify where there's little office politics, political games, people want friends, you're not in our group, you don't think what we want, then fuck you. What leads me to think that is not the science. It's the dynamics of how people operate. And I see it. And then I have my own scientific questions that I never have anybody
But the
to
problem
have.
with that is in the scientific arena,
Yeah.
one sec, the scientific arena is just the opposite. You're going to get a grant if you can demonstrate something new and novel against the paradigm. That's what people want. That's the gold
Not
standard.
if they don't
in
let you in.
science.
I would hope. But I have
What if
like
they vote
scientific
against you?
questions. Like for me, physics or the vast majority of physics is a foregone conclusion. Like it's already been proven.
Oh
It's fact.
no. No. There's
like-
so much about physics we don't know when it comes to quantum.
I'm not talking about I guess you would say, outer-worldly stuff that people like you understand,
I don't
and those on
understand
this
quantum.
panel, like all of this, all of this deep stuff you guys are talking about, or that you guys talk about, string theory. I'm not talking physics like that. I'm talking the basic shit that lay people like me understand.
Well, I mean, the laws
Gravity,
okay, for example,
heat,
like the laws of motion.
stuff like this.
Newton's laws of
Velocity.
motion, like. I mean,
So
would
when
you
I-
say
right, the laws of motion.
Would
So
you
what
say
makes
that
me
they're
think specific?
pretty established? There's three
If
laws
I
of
could
motion.
ask you.
The first, you know what the three laws are?
I do not.
Okay, they're very basic.
What I'm asking,
Oh, go ahead.
well, to my question,
Go ahead.
which my question is like this: like I, as a layperson, I don't deal with the scientific world, but I pay attention as much as I can. And when I look at something like ballistics, explosive ballistics, this is something I happen to know about. I used to fire mortars on a regular basis, daily at one point. I know a thing or two about how explosives work and how an explosion, the physics behind an explosion, ballistics, basically.
Okay.
And it's the ballistics of an explosion, as you would know, are drastically different from a round, like a bullet, or a missile even. So when I look at what happens in an explosion, and then I imagine what a zero gravity environment is like, i.e. space, this is when I start to see there has to be some political gamesmanship as far as the science that's passed down to the other, whatever billion of us who are just lay people, assholes that don't understand all this shit. Because if I explode a grenade in space, there's nothing that will stop the effects of that explosion until it reaches, something that's going to tug on its, like another gravitational body or some shit. Like it'll just keep going.
Right.
But everybody
and-
tells me there was the most massive explosion that could possibly be imagined
Like what?
And somehow it's slowed down. Like when I look at in other words, when I look at Big Bang, in other words,
are you
before
talking
everybody
about the Big
goes
Bang?
crazy, I am.
Big Bang was not an explosion.
No, I'm saying as they explain it to us.
Well,
like not
wrong.
what I know it is. I'm talking. Like
all right, Liv.
Yeah, they
Liv,
do make
hold
it
on.
sound like an explosion, even though
No, they
it shouldn't
don't.
be.
Steve, if it's not an explosion, what is it?
Okay, the reason
you guys are
that's a good.
because you know about
explosion. What's going on today?
Explosion is a rapid expansion of gas within a volume of space. That's the definition of explosion. Okay, you have to have a rapid expansion of some type of gas or pressure into a lower concentration of pressure.
Well, to me, like the
that's
Big Bang
what an explosion is
the
defined
face
as.
of everything I know about explosions.
Is that correct?
Like it just doesn't make sense.
Okay, no. Like, listen to me. Did I describe an explosion to you? A rapid expansion of gas or pressure going to a lower concentration in a unit volume. Is that an explosion? Yes or no?
You guys are smart. I'm the one who doesn't know. I'm asking a question.
If I explode something, right, it's going to have okay. I used to know how to make what's called a C3 equivalent explosive. It uses potassium chlorate. It had a detonation velocity of 3,300 meters per second, and it uses a little number 3 or number 6 blasting cap. I can't remember to detonate.
3,000 meters per second.
3,300 meters per second detonation velocity.
Jesus.
It's very, very high yield. Okay.
No shit.
Yeah, and but when this type
that's
of
more than
again,
HE.
It basically will start from the center, right, and then it has the initial burst, and then all the particulates fly out, right, and it's as you said, it starts slowing down because there's something called Newton's laws of motion, and the first law of motion is that any object will tend to remain in motion, or without until
less acted upon by another object, right?
Okay, so.
Right.
We have
I don't know the laws verbatim, but I understand them.
Okay, so in the atmosphere, you have resistance, right? And resistance is going to slow that down.
Right.
Okay, so in space, you don't have that resistance, right? But
None.
But the Big Bang itself, nothing exploded. There was no mass
See,
to exist.
now, before you continue, understand that there is a drastic difference, and this is what I would ask, especially for groups like yours and people like you. There's a drastic difference between your heightened sense of understanding scientifically and a layperson.
Okay, how about like a layperson?
You are like a nuclear physicist, right?
Well,
like
no, I got a background in nuclear operations, reactor
Wait.
operations.
So let me let me just help with this a little. So when we're talking about
in the past 16 years, it's like it changes every 3 years.
no,
like as soon as there's a question, no, it's not quite an explosion, and then
Well, I can explain it very simply, Steve.
Not you, Steve. I'm saying
like here's the very
not
basics.
you. I'm saying
here's the very basic. Like
not you. I'm saying in reports and what we see.
Listen to me carefully.
Like as a kid who was in science class in 1992, I've watched this story.
No, it has never changed.
Many years
you just didn't. They maybe explained it to you incorrectly. And
maybe I can try and bridge this gap.
But I will say
What
one
happens
thing. Let me
is
say one thing, and then you guys can take over. At the time of the Big Bang, the initial rapid inflation, there was no particles. You understand that? Nope. There was no solidification of matter, right? Particles, atoms didn't
There was
exist.
supposed to be no matter. Supposedly there was nothing.
It was energy.
Energy from where?
The Higgs field.
I thought they said that the energy was created after the bang.
No, the Higgs field is ubiquitous. Higgs field.
Well, the Higgs field is fairly new. People.
Oh, Jesus!
The idea of the Higgs
sound like
field
nerd
was
fantasy to me. This is why I listen to that.
Here's
on the
the
news,
thing.
on Discovery Channel, they won't tell you.
What we recently learned about the Higgs bosons and the Higgs field, it's fairly recent. Like we're still learning stuff about physics.
Very recent.
LIGO. So what you may have been taught, even 5 years ago, may be a bit out of date because when we talk about certain things in science, to the layperson, you have to use analogies in order to get them to understand when that is applicable. And
in this case, you don't, because usually you got to use the analogies because people won't ask questions. In a hangout like this, the same Discovery Channel, I'll ask a question.
Yeah, the analogy of explosion is really bad though, because
to your point, these analogies don't just change coming from the scientific community. The entertainment community, like the Discovery Channel, changes and sensationalizes these analogies all the time. They don't stick with the story because they don't even understand it.
They should be ignored. Like when we're talking about politics and people say, "Hey, let's see what Kanye thinks." Fucking retarded. Fuck the entertainment. Talk about science.
Well, that's the thing. When you have something like the Discovery Channel, they're paid for views. They're not paid to be accurate. They can
Right.
kind of stretch the truth and
Which is why you
know,
want to stick with
when you're talking
PBS.
about
I'm not
And
saying it's
They started
aliens.
making,
Tyson.
But
they
it's
started
aliens.
making digital animation and show you, like, yeah, verbatim, this is exactly how it
Yeah,
happened.
but
I'm like,
Liv,
really?
they have to
Really?
fill a half-hour slot. What are you going to do?
Yeah, and Liv, when you hear people talking about like, okay, the Big Bang was an explosion, they're very layperson stuff explaining to laypersons, right?
So what was it?
It was.
I heard explosion, then I heard implosion,
No,
then I
neither.
heard just,
neither.
it almost
Space.
sounded like fairy
The
tale.
reason you don't understand it because you never really looked into what space time really is, right? Space
That's why I'm
time
here.
is in a relationship between a fabric of I call it metric tensor is what it is. When the Big Bang occurred, it was actually space time called Minkowski space that expanded rapidly. It hyperinflated. So space itself, the confines of space, that's what moved out, and that moved very fast, faster than C, even faster
Right
than
there,
light.
but now I know we're talking something smaller than milliseconds here.
It happened in the
but
first,
right
yes,
there.
in the first microseconds. This happened, the initial inflation.
Right? How? Just
Well,
from
that
what we
gets
understand
way
of
beyond.
energy.
If I told you what I was going to tell
from
you,
what we under,
I'd
from
lose
what,
you.
from what we understand, maybe not. I'm here. It's a hangout. It's not a half-hour
All right,
segment on Discovery
there's
Channel.
certain things called the Heisenberg uncertainty
But
principle.
what I'm saying is the energy input required
Okay,
to begin the chain of events.
sure.
Fuck the catalyst. Fuck
Okay.
whatever started it. Fuck whatever started
There's-
it. I'm just saying the energy necessary is so massive.
Well, yes,
that
there was a lot of energy.
the
But
story
do you
started
know
rattling for someone.
do you know there's actually ubiquitous energy all around you? It's called 0-point energy. Okay, ZPE is referred to.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've heard of this.
Okay, the ZPE is an energy field. It exists everywhere. Okay, now you may ask, why can't we use it for shit? Well, that's a good question. If you were to ask that, the reason you
Well, it's
can't,
just like how they say a tree, all the energy in a tree could run a whole city if you could somehow find a way
yes,
to
if
get
you
it
do
out.
equals MC squared.
I've heard of it.
But this is different. What the reason you
But
can't use
this is like fuck the nerd fantasy. I'm saying break why don't
I'm trying
like,
to
I don't
explain it to you, but you
understand
keep interrupting me.
when
The ubiquitous
Sorry.
field cannot be used because it's all at the lowest potential energy. Okay, and think of that in your head as if it was called ground state. If you're on a level ground with no dips in it, no cliffs, right? No holes, you have no potential energy usage, right? You can't get anything out of potential energy, correct? Because you're at ground state. Does that make sense?
Right.
Okay. Now
Right.
think of the ubiquitous 0-point energy being that ground level. It's still energy, okay, but just unusable energy because of that ground. Now, when you asked about the tree, yes, the amount of energy stored in matter, right, which is imparted by the Higgs field, by the Higgs mechanism, that is a huge amount of energy. Gargantuan. You can't imagine how much energy. If you did a direct conversion from energy to mass, you could solve
I
all
follow you
those
100%.
problems. What's that?
I'm tracking 100%.
Yeah, it's more effective. It's basically, if you have a matter antimatter conversion, that's 100% yield. Okay, you have 100% conversion into
Track it.
pure energy.
I got you.
Okay, so
I hear you.
I think if I last time I looked into it, there's something about the size of a ping pong ball. If that was converted into pure energy, right? It would basically be how many megatons was it? It was
Oppenheimer did this in Manhattan a couple of decades ago.
Well, he didn't use
said the size of
antimatter.
my fist.
he didn't use
No, but
antimatter.
I understand the
I
concept.
think
I understand what you're trying to relate.
I think 1 kilogram of antimatter has a yield of, oh my God, I looked into this not too long ago. Oh my fucking God.
Inconsequential. I know you know what you're talking about. I'm saying I understand what you're trying to illustrate. I got you.
But I looked into this and I want to know the answer. I mean, it wasn't like
My
the
thing is
megatons,
the energy
but it was a
required
pretty good excited explosion.
is massive.
Yeah.
And they tell you it came from nowhere.
It would be an atomic bomb. But anyways, well, they didn't come from nowhere because, again, along with that ubiquitous ZPE, there's something called quantum fluctuations, okay? And quantum fluctuations
go.
exist because of an inherent property of Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. Because of these instabilities, you can have actually rapid inflation. But again, this gets way into la la land that, I mean...
Well, you know, we got, I'm sure everybody else is silent. I'll mute mine too.
I think but if we're going to talk lay people, because I'm a lay person, we should talk about the basics. The
I'm a
basics is
layperson.
like, for
You
example,
guys aren't
when Thaddeus said, "Oh, well, the Big Bang came from nothing." No one ever said the universe came from nothing. First of all, there's no law that says things that can't come from nothing. Anybody who says there's a law that says you can't come from nothing doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about. Show me this law.
Not thermodynamics.
No, the thermodynamics does not say you can't come from nothing. The thermodynamics there's
Matter
4 laws
can't be
of
created or
thermodynamics.
destroyed.
I know all 4 laws of thermodynamics, and none of them say nothing about something coming from nothing. Not a single one of them.
Yeah, maybe not exactly like that.
Oh,
but
well,
how do
then
you
that's the
explain them?
problem then, because there's no law against it, as I said.
The physics and the laws that we know are in a state of motion at this point, with more that we find out in outer space.
Well, yeah, with black holes, sure, and that's good.
Meaning, with distance from this rock that we live on,
sure,
the laws fluctuate.
Well,
there are amendments.
Well, again, which laws and by how much?
Yeah.
You're throwing that out there, but what laws are being violated and where are they being violated, except in the middle of the black hole?
We're not there. We don't know. Like, I'm just saying, what I'm basically came to the realization of is everything on our plane, so to speak, I guess, Earth or in the vicinity. This is the way things are here, not necessarily universal.
Well, you see that, but we kind of pretend that
that's all the work that CERN is doing. Like, that's a large majority of their work.
Can I interrupt
They're
for a second?
discovering the amendments. They are discovering the amendments to the laws that we know.
Hang on. So, what caused the Big Bang? What happened there at that event? What caused the Big Bang? Science doesn't know yet. They may not ever know. I don't have a problem with that. But even though we don't know, they don't know what happened, what caused it. Everything from that point on, we pretty much got to get a handle on. So there's no place out in space where the laws of nature have been warped or something, or where gravity is not gravity like we know it, or light doesn't act. No, we pretty much got a handle on that stuff.
There's just
Really? How do you know that?
I can tell you right now how we know this.
There's something function like that.
Thaddeus, I can tell you right now how we know that.
But the event horizon of most black holes, like, I'm sure would challenge that. We'll find out. We're going to see.
One thing there's multiverse. There's probably some universes that don't work like ours.
Yes, we're talking about our universe. Okay, first of all, there's something that's fundamental across all of our universe. Okay, it's called the fine structure constant. It's 1 over 137 is approximation of it. Okay, it's a very mystical number, 1 over 137, because nobody knows really why it came out to be this, but. The fine structure constant, we can actually look in the universe and see if there's any variant to this fundamental constant. There's about a couple dozen fundamental constants. That is one of the primary ones because that affects many other primary constants, okay? And if that fundamental constant we can see has not changed, and we can tell it goes back 1.8 billion years, but if that has not changed, then the speed of light hasn't changed, and that hasn't changed, then the magnetic and electric constants haven't changed. So we can look at another universe, or not a universe, galaxy, and say, oh, look, that galaxy up there, Andromeda, yeah, you know what? The laws of physics work there just as well as it does here because we can see that the fundamental fine structure constant is still valid there. So speed of light there is the same it is here. We know it is. We can do that.
One thing I think we all forget is that the universe, if you have to think about the universe as a box, and at t equals 0 at the beginning, the laws that we have now weren't in existence. Those laws don't work outside of what we perceive as the universe. So the law of gravity, the 4 fundamental forces, those things, we only know of them in this particular universe, in this particular construct. So when we talk about before, it's really an I don't know question. It's not how can you explain it? It's just that we just don't know as of yet.
Yeah, I agree.
You know what I would like? I would like them to take all of the guys who, like you guys who understand this, like the practitioners in the field. I would like them to do some prac apps, we used to call it, practical application. And use this shit to, like,
nuclear. The field I was
really,
in, nuclear.
like, to really make like a real fucking thermonuclear defense, like, you know, to make a force field.
You got to start somewhere. We know the theory works because nuclear power works.
Shit that we're never gonna know.
Yeah, this is all nuclear physics, man.
But we know
a part of the issue is
that's
that
what we need. Oh, practical.
Trying to teach this stuff to people is a bit like pulling teeth. I can give you an example as to why. Do you like word problems, Liv?
Say again?
Do you like word problems?
Word problems?
Correct answer is
Yes, word problems.
No,
Yeah, you
not
know,
really.
like crossword puzzles.
Okay, a physics
No,
course
don't get me
is
wrong.
nothing but
I know I
word
sound and
problems
look
with
like an idiot,
calculus.
but I sound and look like an idiot. But I got a command of the language. But I don't like word problems.
Yeah, that's. I'm telling you, as someone who just finished a course in physics, the
Right.
entire course is nothing but word problems and calculus.
Yeah, it sucks.
And so
I would have
that
no
really,
doubt, my friend. My man, I would have no
and,
doubt.
like when I tell you, like, you will hate life,
I have
like
no
it
doubt.
is.
When you take 20 to 30 minutes
like,
to solve a problem, it's ridiculous. And he's right, because what the way it works is some of it's not
Semantic
that terribly
bullshit, we
difficult.
call
What's
it.
difficult is getting the problem, figuring out what you have, right? What variables you have, or as Ronnie would say, variables, and then figure out what you need and what formulas you need to get there.
Right.
That's the hard part of figuring out any physics problem. Because we had to memorize hundreds and hundreds of fucking formulas, and they may give us, you might have 10 things going on. You have 8 of them. You need to derive the other 2 by using these other formulas and maybe manipulating them to get the, how to figure it out. These problems take a long time to solve.
Then there's the
Well,
part where you
again,
build out most of the page and you realize you made a mistake and got to find it.
Well, my biggest thing is, like I always said, this was negative signs. I fucking, for some reason, lose negative signs like my life depended, especially in calculus. I don't know what the fuck it is.
I think we're not challenging.
You're not alone.
I don't think we're doing a good job at all, and it's to our detriment that we're not challenging the minds like all of you guys who are clearly tuned into
we try,
advanced
dude,
science.
but you get people like the
No,
Carpasi,
when I
they
say
don't want
we're
to be
not,
challenged.
I'm not
They don't want to learn anything.
I am talking about the government that I serve, not you or the audience or anything like that.
I have a proposition to solve that.
You guys are doing great, actually. At least you guys are holding dialogue.
Yeah, I have a proposition on how to
Let
solve
people
that.
like me ask questions.
Oh, wait,
you know?
I'm not even. Come on, stop it.
What's your question?
Okay, good.
How you solve it?
My proposition would be that the natural behavior for learning in human beings is entertainment. Like, it's when we have fun as children, that is the natural development of our own intelligence and ability to adapt to the environment around us. I think it's an utter failing of education and an utter failing of the entertainment industry when the two of them are not one and the same in some way
It's
or another.
intentional, my man.
Whatever
It's
happened
intentional.
to junction, what's your function? That was good times, man. I learned a lot
Peter
of shit
Griffin?
from fucking that school.
Steve, what about
No
the
shit.
hinterland who's who?
Hey, can I ask you guys a question? And I would like to hear your back and forth on this because it's only something that I could think about, but I don't have, the skill base, the knowledge set, I guess, to really.
Yes.
I don't know how
All
intentional
right.
it is.
We've kind of been
Check it out.
ignoring
Check it
his
out. Check it
initial
out.
thing.
Check it out. From what I gather, you guys understand thermodynamics for the most part.
Used to.
From what I gather,
I'd take a lot of courses on it.
you understand it at least at the layperson's level.
Sure.
Okay. And I call myself a layperson, but I'm telling you, there are those worse. Like my normal circles is surrounded by single syllable characters. It's yo and fuck that, and so they're worse. I'm going to ask you guys for several steps ahead. You understand ballistics. You understand motion. You understand intercepts. Honestly, what is your best, okay, fuck it, opinion, but really I'm asking for a solution. How do we stop incoming terminal velocity threats? I am not talking about meteors. I'm talking man-made. If you wanted to protect an area,
there's two types of systems. You can have a kinetic system, which is actually
right. I know. I understand. Right. Direct contact.
Yeah. So kinetic has some downsides. Obviously, if you miss the target, you're screwed, right? You have to really have a good intercept course. I mean, things
Can you repeat the question real quick? I didn't really get the question.
I'm thinking that the best system is going to be a point laser system.
Yeah. Okay. You mean like the new now? You talking okay? You're talking like the one that we're trying to employ now.
Yeah, we were working on point laser systems that because it's
okay,
computer guided.
Here's my thing with that.
You don't have to worry about firing a projectile, and if you miss,
you do that,
fire the beam.
Okay, now is that is the targeting So that lays clearly is automated, right? So if something changes courses, it could change course immediately.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. I mean, we had what's called a phalanx system. Do you know what that is?
Yes.
Okay, so
phalanx, of course.
Yeah, yeah.
I
So
see
we had a phalanx.
We got them on all the destroyers.
Yeah, yeah,
But
exactly.
that's
We had two phalanxes,
they're
port and
bullets.
starboard. That motherfucker was automated. Once it's locked on, anything came within 2 miles, it's shot down. And it doesn't even have to. It doesn't even have to like go through the wing. It could nick the wing. It could literally just nick the fucking wing, and that plane's going down because it's like 8
Brother,
inches.
I follow
of
you 100%.
Right?
I seen 50 cals almost remove limbs without even touching.
Oh yeah,
the target.
50
Like,
cals
I
are
know
badass
exactly
too.
what
We
you're
had
talking
those too. Yeah.
So what I'm asking is this though: with that type of system, my worry is that that's real good for something like an aircraft, because even as you start to cut through the fuselage or cut through the wing or something,
yeah, it's a kinetic weapon.
even if the pilot, no, I mean not the phalanx. I'm talking, lasers.
Oh, okay.
Whatever.
Well, yeah, lasers work for a lot of things, but the problem is you still need a lot of energy for them.
Right. And when I seen the demonstrations of it, like the demonstrations that I seen, obviously they were like drone targets or something. You could see that it almost looked more effective because the target did not change course at all, didn't increase velocity, nothing. It just stayed there and got cooked.
Mm-hmm.
My question is this: is that system? Can we really think that system is effective for a terminal velocity
projectile? I don't see why not. You just lock onto the target.
Is it?
You just once you lock on that target and you get enough energy in there to fry its electronics, it's going down, right?
Yeah, once it reaches terminal, it's not going to go any faster. So you can. It's not going to dramatically change direction once it reaches terminal.
That's why it's called terminal.
Yeah.
So when you have something coming in and it's red hot, breaking back into the atmosphere,
it doesn't leave the atmosphere.
I would imagine. Excuse me?
Missiles won't leave. An ICBM won't leave the atmosphere. It doesn't go that high.
No. Okay. Rephrase. When it's coming back down to Earth to actually strike its target, and the atmosphere that it's in is so thin that it's actually breaking back into the thicker part of the stratosphere where it actually glows red hot. When that happens, doesn't that mean that it has some type of
ICBMs
reinforced?
Don't go that high. What's the height of an ICBM? It doesn't reach. It doesn't go to the outer edge of the
My man,
atmosphere.
you can do the I'm not going to go into the weeds here, but you can do the research yourself, and I think you can deduce what I'm saying. When the warheads themselves, whether they're independently mobile or not, when they are in their final phase and heading towards their target, they're in a much thinner part of the atmosphere, if not above it directly. I will remind you that every ICBM, both in the former Soviet Union and this country, was developed, as a weapon, but that is the same schematic, so to say, that we used to get to the moon. So it's not like this is out of their possibility. I only mean, without having the technical skill you do, I only mean when it's in its final phase and about to make a splash, when it's coming back down to Earth, and it's still very much high above the clouds, and it's glowing as they come in, like all of our tests.
I don't think the ICBMs do that though. They don't reach any height to the point where they're actually.
Then it's not a question,
Steve.
I'm sure you're wrong. I'm like 99% sure, but I don't have the technical skill. So really, that's just my feeling that you're wrong. Like if you're saying that's not it, I know you're talking from some tech.
Well, and the other problem I see is, do you know? I mean, Reds is in the live feed, so let's get Reds in here. He's a missile expert, or at least a lot more knowledgeable than we are. But do you know why when things do come into the atmosphere, do you know why they get red hot? Like when a meteor comes in.
Friction.
What is it?
Friction.
I do.
No, it's
obviously.
Not friction.
No.
I thought it was
ozone layer.
Anybody?
Ozone layer.
It's because they're happy.
So I want to understand.
Okay, you guys. See, the problem is like this is another thing they teach you in school. That's friction. It's not friction. It's called ram pressure.
No.
Okay, what ram pressure is a building up, a compression of the gas of the air in front of the object striking it, and it causes the outer layers to melt away. That's why.
If you cannot
ablation. So when you have this meteor, when it hits the atmosphere, the very hot air that's in front of it is so compressed that causes it to like melt it, and then when it hits the ground, meteors are actually cold.
That's great. I only bring this up not for this type of points, but for the point to say, how do we get an umbrella up?
You're talking
What's
about
the
some
most
kind of
effective
massive
way to get an
shield.
umbrella up?
Yeah, I have no idea.
I'm not talking like
I have a
literally
science
shield,
fiction.
but I mean like how do we? That's my layman's way of saying what would be, in the minds of people who understand science, the most effective defense.
Like I said, I thought it would be lasers.
But doesn't the U.S. have a treaty with the Soviet Union that we
Fuck
can't
treaties.
do
I can tell you when treaties are they're written on the same type of material you wipe your ass with every day.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we can't do like a Star Wars thing, but anyways, does that answer?
I
Is
have a
that as far
science
we can
fiction
go on that?
proposal.
Because I kind of want to get back to HT because I still want to figure out what the hell.
By
he
the
was
way,
getting at.
Steve, just for reference, quick Google search: average altitude for an ICBM was 750 miles.
Yeah, that's the same thing I just pulled up.
But again,
750
it
miles,
depends
really? Is that
on
high?
the make and model of the ICBM.
It depends on the trajectory they fire. They can fire it at a depressed trajectory where it never breaks the atmosphere.
That's why
at
I
all.
said maximum.
Right.
Straight, it goes
But
750
again,
miles
it
straight up.
depends on the make and model because not all will go to that height.
That's higher than the That's higher than the ISS.
No shit. They used that same model for the ICBMs to get to the moon. This was the space. When we did the space race, they didn't have separate rockets for space and separate rockets for national defense. It was the same system. In fact, when Kennedy said, let's go to the moon, that was the public comment. The Soviet Union military command understood that mean, we're going to be able to touch it from anywhere on Earth.
Is it really?
So I know they
750
break
they
the
call it
That's why I said I'm
they-
99% sure.
They call it a suborbital space flight, with a flight path being a part of an ellipse with a vertical major axis. The apogee, halfway through the mid-course of the phase, is at an altitude of approximately 1,200 kilometers.
So I didn't mean to detract from Steve or you guys said, hey, this opportunity.
That's on the
you got
high
real
end
smart
of
guys.
a low orbit. I mean, low orbit is 99 to 1,200 miles.
Again, I wasn't trying to distract. I just said I got smart guys. They understand physics and all that. Let's get into can I ask a practical question just for me, not to change conversation? Space and all that stuff is great, but something practical that matters to me right now. And I said, hey, what's the best defense? And he said, lasers. And I agree. I just wonder, because that's what I thought. But I just wonder, will it be effective because of heat shielding? Like when I seen the test of the drone get hit by the laser that we put on a warship, that's one thing.
Well, you wouldn't hit it nozzle first.
You
You wouldn't hit it. Okay, the heat shield would be on the front, right? You would actually aim for the side of it, but that's not that part's not shielded.
So it would be like to.
You don't aim for the
I get what
nozzle,
you're saying.
right? The nozzle is what's shielded.
No. I would have probably thought that, not being an idiot, but when I watched the test of the weapon on a drone, and they hit the center of the fuselage under the wing, and it took them a while to burn through, and I was just wondering if you have a projectile moving at terminal velocity, Mach whatever, you can figure it out, but it's up there.
Yeah, well,
Definitely
once you know
Mach
its
5.
speed, once you locked on, you're locked on. I mean, it doesn't matter because it's at terminal velocity. But even if it changed things, I mean, it's going to correct the laser sighting, right? It's locked on target.
I would hope so, brother. In my mind, I say if that's the case,
once you got tonal lock, it's good game, man. You're something's not going to get out of there. You're screwed.
Then I would say, I hope that's the case, because I'm not being a pessimist.
ICBMs against us.
North Korea.
Yeah, they ain't got no ICBM yet. They got the Topol D3 or something. They can hit South Korea.
Okay, Steve, but is it cake?
What?
Is it cake?
Is it cake?
Yeah. Because as soon as Kim Jong-il goes and looks at it, he's going to ask, is it cake?
It's funny.
Anyways,
HT just left.
HT
I
left,
wish
so
they
we
was
didn't finish that
we'd have
dialogue.
figured out what he was getting at, because it was just so confusing. He kept saying Richard Dawkins, and these people don't believe this.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell he was getting at. We got sidetracked too many times. I wanted to get back to him and go, what is the point of all this? This is the problem that he was having with rational mind. I'm like, Okay, and you're assuming or making the claims that Richard Dawkins and all these other biologists don't accept this stuff on a citation? Why would they not?
Steve, something I did want to say earlier before we got so sidetracked.
You gay? We know.
No.
You're fabulously gay.
When you put your academic career into something, and the whole time you go along with it, you're pretty much solid and being right. When something comes along that's going to change things and prove you wrong, you fight adamantly to prove you're right.
Yeah, that's
otherwise you lose everything.
A lot like that.
Right.
Yeah,
like I've heard from somebody that the science that Dawkins does is about 20 years out of date.
Well, that's what Sam was saying too. Yeah.
Yeah, but then again, that's when he did his research. Things have moved on since then, and he's been writing books now and doing the talking circuit based on what he did when he actually did stuff.
Yeah, he's not a modern, up to date.
No,
I don't
he's
think
not.
he would claim to be.
And by the time research is done, it's proven to be a fact and trickles down to a high school textbook. It takes a few years to get down there.
Sure.
But you gotta differentiate the hardcore science from the scientific communicators, like a Bill Nye, for instance. Those are people who communicate the science to the masses. They don't actually do the hard science.
But they have a job to do too, right? I mean, I think the Bill Nyes and the even people like that do the science. I mean, Neil deGrasse Tyson does science. But the fact that they can communicate it is extremely important, because people that wouldn't normally be into science will listen to effective science communicators, especially when they're personable, right? So I think they have a fundamental job to do. It's not that they're going to teach the world this science, but people are going to have an interest where they can go learn things themselves, right?
It's just making it accessible for people that actually want to look at it, because some people just find it really boring. So.
All right. Well, anyways, I didn't want to keep this hangout very long. I'm tired. I was going to go play a little bit, then probably call it a night. So I can't keep it running because it's too CPU much usage. But anybody have any closing thoughts? This was going to be a quick TST after show. That's all. And I'm sorry, HT, we didn't get to.
No, I appreciate being able to ask.
Oh yeah, no problem.
Scientific stuff, because most of us regular people don't get a chance to even do that.
And then next time you're in here, you're going to ask again about the Big Bang, because that was like the third time, I think.
Yeah, like Liv, it seems like you're trying to promote that there's some explanation of why the Big Bang happened, because a couple of your comments seem to be how weird all this energy come from, that type of thing. Do you kind of feel like it's insufficient to say we don't know yet, or are you positing something that the cause, or that there's some cause that may be known?
I'd say so. How about him?
Well, I'd say I'm real positive saying I don't think we know yet. Like, I'm pretty firm on that.
But it's
funny.
I
don't buy like the, when they say, yeah, guaranteed. Like, no, because I'm only been here 36 years and it's constant corrections.
I noticed that we a lot of people like to focus on what we don't know, and there are a lot of stuff we don't know, but they never really want to focus on the stuff that we do know. For example, like these young creationists,
my question
right?
About national defense.
These young creationists will love to say
that was my question about.
What's that? What? Where'd you go?
I think I was cutting you off, Matt.
Oh, I think we got lag. I was just gonna say that the youngest creationists would love to say, "Oh, well, we don't know this, we don't know that," but they never ever acknowledge that we do know certain things, like the fucking age of the Earth, right? It's like that's something we do know, guys. It's knowledge. There's no question. There is no debate. We have many different ways of determining the age of the Earth.
Yeah, we either know it or we've been severely tricked by something supernatural.
Yeah, well, yeah, in the metaphysical sense, certainly.
I don't know about that stuff either. Like because some of the things they take, like, it's like certain people, they won't, if they don't know certain things, like I wouldn't know certain things, they won't go the step of trying to find out and then ask it.
Yeah, it's like they kind of.
I think what happens is those who actually know the knowledge, you'll focus on these morons who, in their museums, they got horse saddles on fucking dinosaurs.
Oh God! I
You
know.
focus on these people.
Isn't
You
that
focus
scary?
on not you individually. I'm saying those who know. There's a difference. You can know a lot, and then there's those who know and then want to act. Practical application. Like, how do I apply what is known? Make it
That's
practical.
just scary.
And then you have those who know and they are not practical. Instead, they want to like be mockers. But the easiest people to mock are those who are more stupid than yourself. So when you see a character say that there was a horse bridle in the mouth of a triceratops or something, if you focus on them, well, then you're obviously entertaining yourself.
Well, Liv, I
But
gotta
don't
disagree with
pretend
that.
that you're having some type of deep, complex unleashing of truth or trying to have dialogue. I'm not saying you. I'm saying what we all see online all the time and in our life.
Well,
He's
I gotta,
going
trying to
after
have some type of dialogue.
I gotta disagree with you
You're
because
looking
you're
for
talking
morons
going
about.
in your
after
life.
low hanging fruit, basically.
Well, you gotta disagree with that because like let's say Ken Ham's museum with the saddles on dinosaurs that got $100 million from government money, so that's something that
Well, no, that wasn't
they're
100 million from
they're
government money. That was
teaching
not government
people
money. They got
that
tax breaks, but no, he got
You see a
investors for
statement
that
like
shit.
that? You see
that's
that?
government
Now,
money.
now
That
you made it. You made that statement in complete honesty, no maliciousness. But look at how quick something like that would strike a match in like a crowd, because
Well,
right
yeah, 'cause
away
it wasn't-
government.
it
Yeah,
What are you
exactly.
talking
Like
about?
if Steve
it was
wasn't
actually
there
idiots
to
donating
correct
to
what
him.
he just said, I would have still went on believing, oh, so the government gave him that
No,
money.
because remember he didn't.
$100 million tax
And
break.
this
That's
what
government
happens
money.
all the fucking
That is
time.
government money.
To me, as a watcher, as a layperson, the ones
Yeah,
that
you wouldn't know unless Steve was there.
We're
Correct him.
ironically, we're the ones who, at least like me, who actually admit what we don't know and seek to look at it. We're the ones who know the least, supposedly, and we seek out questions. We're the ones who are always ignored. The loudmouth asshole screaming at the top of his lungs in the corner over there, saying that our ancestors were riding dinosaurs. These are the ones that they're focused on. These are the ones that both the idiots or the malicious idiots and the knowledgeable, they all focus on that.
Well, hold on.
So this is why I say,
I got to disagree with you in a big way, because if we're talking about, let's say, let's even dispense with the whole, if you build a museum and they give you $100 million in tax breaks, or however much it was in tax breaks, and you don't have to pay that money to the government, you're getting a benefit, and that government money is going to things that we all know is not science.
The guy who owns the company, that put gas in your car today, the guy who owns the bank that insured your house or the building, apartment, wherever you live, wherever you are right now, I assure you, has equal, if not tons of tax. Your current president that's coming in.
They got
2
tax
weeks,
breaks, but the problem was with his tax breaks was the tax breaks he shouldn't have gotten for the fact that they violated the law by getting the tax breaks by only hiring people that would sign a waiver or a little statement of faith saying that they actually believed in younger creationism. They had a very specific agenda that they were hiring people, and the government should not have given a tax break for that because that was in violation of the way the state has the tax code set up. Okay, in order to get the tax break, they had to hire anybody.
All about presidents coming in right now.
What's that?
Our new commander in chief gleefully, happily told the nation and everybody how the reason why he doesn't pay taxes is because he's smart. I will say, to point a finger at him is kind of hypocritical in the sense that his entire class moves that way. So you can't talk to me about tax breaks, this, that, and the other.
That's a different tax
Mitt
break.
Romney, all of them. Like when we say offshore account, we all know what the fuck we're talking about. So when they want to point a finger at some organization that gets some type of break or something, I mean, it's to me redundant.
And yes, Trump gets tax breaks. He used them. He wants to close them. We'll see. But the tax breaks that Ham got for the Kentucky Museum, again, the reason they were fighting for it, for people fighting against it, was the fact that his hiring practices. That was the key in that. So no, he shouldn't have gotten anything in tax breaks. Nothing.
Here's the thing.
But as far as the funding, hang on.
What did he get
as
the breaks
far as
for?
the funding itself, the funding was all through private donations.
There you
That
go.
wasn't the problem.
That is true. That's true. Yes.
That's the main thing. Like, so that right there makes it it's something I immediately back off of. Because clearly, there were a bunch of people
want to spend money on that.
who gave him money
I think it's stupid.
to say
It's a
that we
waste
were
of
riding
private funding,
dinosaurs
but
like
it is
horses,
their
like
choice.
fucking idiots.
Yeah,
But he couldn't have built the Ark Museum without those tax shelters.
I agree with you, and I think they made a major mistake on
You
that.
can't pretend like though that benefit that he got,
Right.
it wasn't like he was going to be able to build that thing anyway. Those tax breaks were specifically done so
There's
he
no
could build
museum. Every museum in this country at least has some type of tax shelter.
But they're not.
Yes,
They give a
but,
city some
but
type of
every
break.
museum. Wait, Liv. But every museum has to have equal opportunity hiring practices. They didn't. That's the difference. They would
I
only
didn't know-
hire
I
younger
don't know about
creationists. You cannot do that and get tax credit because now it becomes a religious organization.
I mean, from what now I may not know you guys on science. I learned from you guys, and I'm clearly no lawyer, but I'm more versed
Multiple personality is
in
a
legal
lawyer.
practice than the average person. On this, I'm not. When it comes to the law, I'm no novice at all.
Well, yeah, but he
And
is
I
a
can
lawyer.
I could tell you this: if he received any type of benefit, and there was a challenge to that benefit, saying we're supporting someone with discriminatory practices against the Constitution, there's no way that process didn't run the gauntlet and go through courts. If it didn't go through courts, it's because it wasn't a sufficient challenge to the point where it couldn't be appealed. So what I'm saying to you is this: if the claim that they were discriminatory is accurate, then right now, today, while we talk...
No, they weren't. Okay, you misunderstood. They're not discriminatory as far as saying we won't. Okay. This is going to sound
religious
weird.
discriminatory,
I use the
meaning
word
they only hired other morons who believed that we were right.
But they're legally able to do that. There's nothing illegal about that.
That is, now, if you only hire people to say we were right, look, I fear God, believe in God, but I'm a reasonable person. If you only hire people, now I don't believe we were riding T-Rex. I ain't one of these morons. But I'm saying, if you only hire people who just say, hey, you have to believe in God in order to work here, and this is a place receiving federal public funds, that's discriminatory. It's called religious discrimination. There's a test for this.
Well, no, I
Like
disagree. They're allowed to hire.
You can disagree. You're in your right to. I'm telling you the law.
Here, we got multiple personality.
On this, I'm no novice at all.
Well, multiple personality as a lawyer. So here's my argument. My argument is perfectly fine to hire people according to your business model. And when we use the word discriminatory, I only mean discriminate for the people that you are looking to fit that business model. For example, if you have Hooter girls,
I understand.
Wait, let me finish. If I want to hire people for Hooters, I'm going to hire Hooter girls. I'm not going to hire Heavy Holler. No offense to Heavy Holler, right? Because he doesn't fit the model. So they're allowed to hire people that just have a younger creationist for the Kentucky thing. The problem arose is the fact that by doing so, they would lose out on the tax break. Is that how you read it as well, Matt? Multiple personality?
Yeah, because I think what happens is that in the United States, a lot of people don't realize this, but individuals and private corporations can discriminate all they want as long as it's within, some states do have laws that don't allow you to discriminate against race, religion, and certain things. But generally, without those local prohibitions, the Constitution allows you private discrimination. I can discriminate anyone to come into my house. I can discriminate on race, for instance. Because it's what the prohibition of the government is that the government can't discriminate. Now, if the Ark Museum is getting government funds and becomes almost like a government actor, where they're acting in place of the government, they're using government funds, that's when the same prohibitions against discrimination does apply to them. Usually, and that's when you start seeing the freedom of religion and those type of things. And
now, what you just said just now, legally? Well, Steve, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I agree with multiple 1,000%. Yeah.
So what you just said now legally is almost like a salad you put on the table, and you got to go through it and look at the vegetables. It's fucking tedious, but it's not all the same shit. So as far as one's personal choice to be discriminatory in any way, racial, religious, or otherwise, of course, individuals have that right. In fact, the Constitution is enshrined to protect your liberty. Liberty meaning, your freedom to do as you please, so long as you aren't hurting someone else. The point about government funds, I can tell you right now, as a legal test, in legislature or in court, if the claim is, in order to receive government funds, then you must conduct yourself as a government entity and take on all the responsibilities of the government itself, then I'm telling you right now, that will always be challenged, has always been challenged, and it wouldn't hold up on all fours in court. Here's why. Because the same tests would be applied to both private entities and people. When I say private entities, I don't mean just businesses. I mean your house. So a senior citizen who receives the tax credits that they deserve because they lived in this country for all the years that they did, paid taxes and so forth, when they receive government assistance, that would mean they would fall under the same thing. The same thing would apply to private businesses who receive tax credits, and so down the line. This is why that argument, no lawyer would drag that in court. Only an activist group would say something like that. But a lawyer would know.
There's what you call there's one thing called the lemon test, which you generally lose when you're talking about these type of arguments, religious arguments. But which I think you're misunderstanding is that
because I'm only speaking to the law. I'm not disagreeing with you.
Hold on. What I'm trying to put forth is that the law should be applied to everyone equally. For instance, churches usually get tax breaks and tax credits, and it's not because they're churches; it's because they're not-for-profit organizations, and usually like 501c3s.
Well, no, that's incorrect. But
hold on.
You just said incorrect. That's exactly what it is. 501c3s.
Is that usually when you're talking about religious organizations, they are put in a class of organizations that are given tax credits. Even if you look in the tax code, they'll see churches, fraternities, there's a list of organizations. It's not based on a religious principle. It's based on the type of organization they are and the type of work that they do. If the government was to say, for instance, we're only going to give Christian organizations X amount of money, that would actually violate the law. And again, the Constitution, and you were saying the Constitution is a prohibition against the government. It doesn't really, it tells the government what they can't do. They can't take away your freedom of speech. They can't do X. That's why it's written in the type of sense where Congress can make no law. Congress can make no law. It's a prohibition against the government, what they can't do. And one thing the government has to do, which is the 14th Amendment, equal protection, is treat everyone equally, no matter what your religious preference is. And that's the issues that you get to. So if you have a church who is getting a tax break, there are other organizations that may act similar to churches, secular organizations that have no church affiliation, that should be able to get the same type of benefits, because those benefits doesn't have to be doled out based on their religious practices.
Well, clearly, museum in Kentucky though is for profit, right? I mean, so that's the problem.
Most of them are.
They're not a non-profit organization, so they do have to have the hiring practices of any other business in order to claim any kind of tax deductions. But anyways, I got to wrap this up, guys. So, any final thoughts?
Yeah,
Sorry,
the debit
Holly,
tax
that you're not an 18-year-old with hard body with big D's. Sorry, that's okay though. But I enjoy this. I didn't want to keep very long. My voice is shot, and like I said, I got to use the computer for other things. But I'll probably have a hangout tomorrow or Thursday at the latest. Okay. So
cool.
Shalom, guys.
Appreciate it.